One guy was walking right in the center of Mount Hamelfis. He was right in the very center of hell, and despite his armor, he still felt the heat. Agni was ranked 31st in the official Korean rankings. He wanted to obtain a legendary item that could only be obtained from the Flame Dragon. Suddenly, he saw a sleeping guy on the road. Agni could not believe that he was sleeping in such a place. This guy was all about the iconic accessories from head to toe. Agni used the Fire Dragon summoning technique and attacked. The sleeping boy got up without opening his eyes. He activated the sleepwalking skill. He reacted quickly and began to attack. Agni's shield was about to disappear, and the guy was now attacking, but it was unknown from where. The guy used an attack that couldn't be blocked or avoided. This boy delivered a critical blow. Agni has been fatally struck by a sword. He will be subject to the effects of a nightmare. For the next 5 seconds, he will experience pain and hallucinations. A moment later, he saw before him the huge evil spirit of Thanatos. Agni died and the game session was forcibly ended. This player began to gradually dissolve into thin air. The guy, despite this, went back to sleep. A few hours later, the player woke up, finally having had enough sleep. Looking around, he saw a bag of gold coins and a sword nearby. Hyun Sung was also going to catch a fire dragon to raise his level a little. This guy had the descendant of Thanatos specialization. This level of specialization was divine. Hyun Sung was about to begin his journey. The clock in the office building already read 8 o'clock and 53 minutes. The manager was scolding the deputy manager because the deal for his sister arrived late today. The other workers overheard their conversation and felt sorry for poor Hyun Sung, since it wasn't even 9 in the morning yet. The men couldn't figure out what was wrong with Manager Park, since Hyun Sung was a good worker with a kind heart. One of them suggested that maybe that was the reason. The manager graduated from an elite university, but he still hasn't been promoted. Hyun Sung only graduated from high school, but he was still accepted into a big company. He is smart, a good worker, attractive, and popular with girls. The guy had been working for this company for 5 years already and understood that if he lost this job, with his education he would not find a better place. The manager started acting so arrogant when the guy asked for a day off because his sister was sick, and Hyun Sung wanted to punch him. In response to the manager, Hyun Sung responded with a smile, saying that he was glad that the boss tolerated him. The man told him to stop saying the obvious and to bring him coffee instead. Considering the cost of his sister's medical care, it was all bearable. The guy ran into a nearby coffee shop and ordered a coffee. As terrible as this company was, Hyun Sung needed some source of income. The guy looked out the window and thought what a bad day it was. It was finally evening outside. Hyun Sung returned home and shouted about it. He was met by a nanny. The guy thanked her for her work and said goodbye. The woman apologized for coming too late today, and she would try to come earlier tomorrow. Hyuna and Hyun Sung lived together in the apartment he inherited from his parents. The door opened and the boy saw his happy little sister in a wheelchair. She was 20 years old, just the age when girls should be having fun and chatting with friends. The girl noticed that her brother came home late and that he was always working overtime lately. Hyuna lost her parents and her mobility early, so she had to grow up early. She said that today she was just playing games and reading the book she was holding in her hands. Hyun Sung asked if she had eaten today. Hyuna agreed and asked the same thing. The brother replied that, of course, he had eaten. It was already too late, so he was going to change his clothes right now. It must be hard for Hyuna right now, even though she doesn't show it. It happened 6 years ago. It was pouring rain outside in the evening. Hyuna was riding in the car with her parents. Suddenly, the girl saw a bright flash of light. Hyun Sung's family's car crashed into a truck. Their parents in the front seats died instantly, and Hyuna, fortunately, survived. It was she who persuaded her parents to go out for dinner. And although her body was not damaged, she could not move her legs. 6 years have passed since that incident. She saw her parents die in front of her. It must have been horrible for 13-year-old Hyuna. Recently, the doctor told the boy some good news. She said that Hyuna was getting better. Before, my sister cried every day, blaming herself, but now it's nice to see her laugh. Hyuna threw a pillow at Hyun Sung's face, telling him to stop staring like a pervert. On the recommendation of a doctor, Hyuna started playing VR games a year ago. At first she didn't like it, but gradually she got used to the game and it got better. A game. A virtual world that is larger than our Earth. An idea. It is commonly called Another Land, although this is not true at all. Since its launch, a huge number of players have entered the game. It was truly the greatest game. It was already late, and the boys were getting ready to go to bed. Hyun Sung asked the girl if she needed anything. She said that she probably didn't and didn't need to be babysat. After all, she has already grown up just like him. But if she suddenly needed something, she could knock on his door, but this was not necessary because she had a mobile phone. When Hyun-sung bought Hyune's capsule, he took one for himself. It was all expensive, but he didn't spend it on anything else. The guy thought the capsules were really useful. He bought himself a capsule for only one reason, because time in the capsule flows more slowly than in real life. While 1 hour passes in reality, 5 hours fly by in the game. Surely no one buys a capsule to sleep in, but Hyun-sung used it to get some sleep. Usually he can sleep only 4 or 5 hours, but in idea he can sleep 20 or 25. If it weren't for this capsule, he wouldn't have been able to survive the processing. The person who created this did him a great favor. Thinking back, it seems like Hyun-sung heard that people were making a lot of money in these games. The current idea does not only perform the function of a game. Since it is the best VR game in the world, there is a lot of investment in it. And now it is not so much a single game as an entire industry. They say there have been many cases where people quit their regular jobs and went there. These are probably the kids who have been playing since the game was first launched. If the world is decided by skill, Hyun-sung would surely be no worse than these kids. In fact, he was so good at games at school that he was invited to the pro stage. If his parents hadn't been against it, he could have achieved a lot. But he shouldn't think about such stupid things for the good of his family. I needed to stop all these thoughts and go to bed. The capsule began scanning the eye sockets. After confirmation, the guy began to enter the idea. This is the starting village where the characters appear before the tutorial. Although it is a city, there is no one else here except Hyun-sung. This is a place where you can only move and get used to VR, but only here was there room for it. Entering one of the houses, Hyun-sung plopped down on the bed. Of course, he would like to sleep like this in real life. The guy was still thinking about how he wanted to punch that manager. While Hyun-sung was sleeping, he reached 10,000 hours of in-game time and received many new additions to the game. The next morning, waking up in the VR game, he felt like he had slept well. The first thing the guy wanted to do was check what time it was. It's been 6 hours in real life, and I should probably go make breakfast. He also noticed a lot of new notifications that he hadn't seen before. He saw that his specialty had been upgraded. Now he had a divine level. It was a top-level specialty. Hyun-sung was shocked when he saw that all his points had been raised to 55, when at the beginning he had all 5. Suddenly he remembered that he had heard that you could make good money in this game. Now it was necessary to calm down and find out what was going on here. But for now it was necessary to go out. The guy was sitting at the computer and learning new information. If a person is skilled enough, he will be able to earn money in this game just like in an office. It was a good idea, but he's still low level. It'll still be difficult. Hyun-sung calculated how long he could live on his savings for the time being. It should last him about 2 months. The guy was making himself breakfast and humming a melody. The little sister called Hyun-sung and asked if he was making breakfast. The guy said yes and asked if she wanted to go to the toilet. Hyun-sung entered his sister's room and jokingly asked what they would do if she suddenly snapped right there. Hyuna got angry about this and screamed that she was not a child. The brother asked her again if she needed help to go to the bathroom, and the girl sheepishly replied that he should just sit her down in the chair. Hyun-sung started helping her, saying that he knew it. His sister was yelling at him to stop, and now she would do it herself. It was because of the idea that Hyuna became like this again. Hyun-sung joked that they were twins, and why should they be embarrassed in front of each other? The brother shouted to the girl that he would prepare breakfast, so she didn't have to hurry. When Hyun-sung left, Hyuna tried her best to get up from her chair. It's much easier to do this in a game than in real life, but if she practices, she'll soon start walking. The doctor also said that if she trains her muscles, she'll soon be able to stand on her feet. At that moment, her brother came to the door and asked if she needed help. Hyuna fell back into her chair and shouted at him not to come in. The sister repeated her request once again. Hyuna was only going to tell him about this when she was firmly on her feet. When he arrived at the office, the guy gave the manager his resignation letter. The man immediately became worried, asking why Hyun-sung made such a decision. The rest of the workers were also not in a good mood because the fact that their best worker was leaving would only increase the workload for everyone else. The manager said he would pretend he hadn't seen anything and give the guy a few days to think about it, since he still had a sick sister. Hyun-sung punched and the man became a little scared. The guy thanked him for all the years gone by and hoped that he would never be seen again. The workers who were also watching this were surprised at how Hyun-sung was acting in anger. It was as if Hyun-sung had won the lottery, but he hadn't won the money itself, but the opportunity to earn it by playing games. A guy walked into a computer club and asked if he had to pay in advance. The salesman said he only had to pay in advance for the capsules and could pay for the computers later. Hyun-sung eventually agreed to take the computer. On the right side were the capsules, and on the left were the computers. Hyun-sung was going to study some information about the idea. Surely, the higher the level, the easier it is to earn. The best Korean ranks are now at 300 floors, but most are still at 100, which means the highest demand for items is between 100 and 200 levels. Suddenly, the guy saw something and was surprised. The page wrote that a rare level takes 1.5 times longer to level up than a simple character. A unique one takes twice as long, a heroic one 3 times longer, and a legendary one 4 times longer. With the legendary specialization, instead of 4 experience points, you get only 1. And after all this comes the divine, and there it is already 5 times. Apparently, Hyun-sung should not have quit his job. This means that pumping it will be 5 times more difficult than usual. But based on this, only a high level and straightness of hands influence strength. Otherwise, why would anyone need a high-level specialty at all? Hyun-sung walked back to the man and asked if he could enter the capsule now. He replied that he could only do so if he paid an extra fee. Then, a simple specialty would be better than one that slowed down the leveling by 5 times. And there were still 8.5 hours before Hyun-sung had to get home from work, so he was going to take 9. In total, it cost him 270,000 won. The guy got into the capsule and was ready to go. Hyun-sung found himself in that very city for newcomers. While he was going to save the unused stat points, he still didn't know what abilities he had, so he couldn't be stupid. And yet the guy still didn't understand what kind of specialty the descendant of Thanatos was. A window appeared, telling us that Thanatos is the god of death and sleep. Since time immemorial, he has been called the most cautious of all gods. Nothing can stop him. They say that this god loves death, sleep, and loves to do evil. Hyun-sun, after reading this, realized that it still doesn't explain what this specialty gives him. But from the description, he's not a god, but some kind of maniac. The guy thought he was crazy, and yet the god of death and sleep is not so bad. Now it was time to move on to the skills list. The first card talked about Thanatos' narcolepsy. Thanatos, the god of death and sleep, suffered from narcolepsy, which always pissed off his minions because he was always sleeping. You can level up your skills while you sleep. The second card was about a dream. They say that Thanatos only had good dreams. Whatever his wish in a dream was, it was fulfilled. While the god sleeps, he can even kill someone. The guy opened the ore shop, where you can get skills and items. Hyun-sung was very surprised by such a wide variety. Even if they can't be sold, these items can't be lost after death either. The third card was about sleepwalking. Thanatos, the god of death and sleep, was said to have loved sleep so much that he could do nothing else for days on end. But because of this, he developed the ability to move even in his sleep. The fourth skill was Thanatos' nightmare. He enjoyed human suffering during nightmares, and was rumored to sometimes send nightmares to other gods and his subordinates. Now you could wield any weapon, and the last skill is the Death Sabbath. There is a belief that if Thanatos puts a person to sleep, then he will die. Hyun-sung didn't have any proper attack skills yet, but he could get them from the shop, and with his specialty skills, he started with 10 skills. It was just unbelievable. If he told anyone about this, they wouldn't believe him. Suddenly, the narcolepsy skill was activated, and Hyun-sung began to fall into a deep sleep. If he tried to leave the capsule on his own and go out, he would be disconnected from the game, but his character would remain in place. Hyun-sung couldn't understand why he couldn't move. There were almost 12 hours left before the game would automatically log out. In the real world, Hyun-sung asked for a refund in the hopes that he would be understood. Only 12 minutes had passed. Narcolepsy activated just as the boy tested his skills. It was, of course, a bit of a skill. That is, he instantly fell asleep, just like with narcolepsy. Who could have thought that the name would reflect the whole essence? Hyuna attended remedial training sessions where she learned to walk. The doctor said that it seemed that her knees were still too weak to walk, but that she was no longer constrained by any psychological factors. Hyuna believed that the improvement was due to idea. The doctor said that if she trained her legs a little more, she would be able to walk. The girl thanked the psychologist Mina, saying that it was all thanks to her. Mina replied that she was just doing her job, and the patient's brother deserved the praise. Hyuna was eager to show what she learned to her brother, so she trains harder. The doctor asked why the girl didn't tell her brother everything, but Hyuna didn't think it was necessary. The girl, being a patient, pays all the hospital bills herself. Hyuna once tried to tell him that she makes money from games, but he thought she was joking. Mina thought that the patient's brother probably didn't watch TV, since the idea had become a popular way to make money. Even the sick Hyuna earned money from there. She really wanted to see Hyun Sung's reaction. The doctor would also like to see her brother's surprised face. In this case, the girl offered to take a photo for the doctor. Taking the phone in her hands, she saw that her brother was calling her and was surprised that it was at such a time. Picking up the phone, Hyun Sung became worried and started asking where she was, because the guy had already returned home and she was not there. Hyuna replied that she had gone for a walk with her aunt. Hyun Sung wished them a good walk. The girl replied that they would be going home very soon. Hyun Sung offered to take her away, but she started screaming again that she was no longer a child, especially since she had an aunt next to her. Hyuna told the doctor that it was time for her to go and they would have coffee next time. Mina also said goodbye and told her to hurry up or else her brother would reveal everything. At that very second, the girl called her aunt and said that her brother was already home and they needed to leave quickly. Mina drank coffee and thought about what restless twins they were. Hyuna told her aunt that she had told her brother that they had gone for a walk and asked him to play along. Hyuna and her aunt returned home. Hyun Sung said that since he was already home, the woman could finish early. This woman had already been working without days off, so she needed to rest at least today. The boys thanked her for her work, and the aunt left. Hyun Sung picked up his sister and suggested that they go to her room. The girl didn't understand why her brother was angry. Did he really find out that she was in the hospital? The guy laid his little sister on the bed. Apparently, he wanted to talk about something. A moment later, he announced that he had quit his job. Hyuna immediately thought that something was wrong with him. Her brother always looked tired after work. Hyun Sung said that he will now earn money in idea. Perhaps he was getting ahead of himself. The little sister immediately perked up. She couldn't believe that her brother had quit his job to earn money through Via Mir. Hyuna screamed that he made the right choice, because there are a lot of people making money there now. Honestly, every time she saw him tired at work, she wanted to ask him to quit her and go to Idea, but she was afraid that he would think she was weird. The girl immediately started asking about his specialty and level. She thought that he must have gotten something good if he decided to quit. Hyuna had leveled up quite well during this time and offered her help. Her level was 331, and she was in the top 100 of the official rank. She wanted to tell her brother, but he always ignored her. And so he knows. She makes a lot of money and even pays the hospital bills. From that moment on, Hyun Sung wanted to know more details. As she already said, she wanted to help. Hyun Sung said that he wanted to earn money and did not listen to her. But the guy was interested in learning about the hospital bills. Hyuna pretended not to understand what was being discussed. Hyun Sung was very worried about her. She didn't even know it. Her brother was very worried about money. He didn't even have anything to spend on himself. That's why she wanted to pay the hospital bills herself. The guy realized that the girl had really grown up, since she was worried about him even in such a state. Maybe he was worrying about this game for nothing. Then from now on, he will play it too, and sometimes ask his sister. Hyuna offered to help at the beginning because it is the hardest. It was not obvious from him that he was offered to become a pro player. Hyun Sun promised to reach the top of 1,000 ratings in 3 months. The sister was wondering why her brother was so confident in his abilities if he started playing a year later than the others. The guy keeps his specialization a secret. His mean sister didn't tell him about the medical bills. He won't tell her about it. If he doesn't get there, he will. Hyun Sung walked out of her room and closed the door. The guy hoped he wouldn't lose because of this narcolepsy. Since it was already night, Hyun Sung entered the capsule. The system scanned the player through the pupils. The view was the same as last year. A familiar village of newcomers without a single soul in sight. It was time to leave here. With the help of the narcolepsy skill, Hyun Sung was able to sleep for 58,000 hours, and the skill level was increased. At that time of sleep, he was actually leveling up. It was mentioned in the skill, but seeing it in person is pretty cool. Hyun Sung was in the center of the city, and in front of him was the door to training. His father used to say that the first step is always important. From this moment on, Hyun Sung's training began. The guy teleported to another place. He had to choose a weapon and destroy the scarecrow. There was no time limit and no possibility of failure. As a reward, he should receive the chosen beginner's weapon. All the trainings were the same. Hyun Sung was already tired of it, although it was stupid to expect anything from the training. He was given a wide choice of weapons, but the guy wanted to choose something more familiar. Hyun Sung chose the newbie's longsword. The guy was a second dan in kendo. Of course, martial arts are different from the game mechanics. In games, he always used swords. In essence, this is a hybrid type of weapon in terms of both skills and capabilities. So for now, it will suffice. Suddenly, a scarecrow appeared next to Hyun-sung, and the training began. It didn't look very threatening. With one swing of the sword, the scarecrow split into two parts. The task was completed and the guy received a reward. Now he can go to any village. And Hyun-sung also received the title of Novice Hunter and a new record. In addition to the Novice Hunter, he was also given a Professional Observer. Now it became clear why the characteristics increased. Hyuna will be very surprised if Hyun-sung reveals that he is an unofficial ranker. But still, the guy is more pleased with the Hunter effect. Even though he is lower in level, this effect increases the experience gained by 10%. For his slow pumping by 5 times, this is ideal. After seeing all the messages, it really looked like Hyun-sung had won the lottery. But since he had already seen all the titles, it was time to go. A large map opened up before the guy. The north of the idea. In different countries, it differs by continent. Korea, the central continent, is considered the heart of the idea and develops it. Hyun-sung decided to head to Daeha Village, a notoriously difficult village for newcomers. He chose this village because of the orc camp nearby. Orcs are usually level 30 monsters, meaning it's hard for beginners to hunt them even with reincarnations. That's why nobody usually comes there. The best place to farm is where there are no people. It's time for some crazy pumping. There were 2 guards at the entrance to the village of Daeha. Guardian Hansen didn't understand why no one was entering their village. The monster of Daeha village was the acid slug. The simplest monster around this village is the acid slime. Its attack is difficult to dodge and even harder to block. For beginners, its acid projectile attack is too fast, and the acid itself burns through not only equipment but even hair. Hansen didn't understand how it was so bad after all. There was an orc camp not far from them. Guard Smith asked if he needed to explain it to him again. Suddenly, they noticed someone teleporting. The whole village gathered to see who had arrived. After teleporting, Hyun-sung turned around. He didn't understand why people were gathering around him. But when the residents realized that he was just a newcomer, they turned around and went back to work. Smith felt sorry for the guy, even though he was immortal. The boy approached the guard and asked if they knew where he could hunt monsters here. Smith said that if you go there, you can find acid slugs, but he does not recommend going after them because these slugs are too difficult for a beginner. But Hyun-sung knew about this. That's why he came here. The guards were very surprised and began to dissuade him, saying that the acid of the slugs flies at the speed of a projectile, and it would be difficult to dodge, and if it hit his hair, it would even burn through it. Hyun-sung thanked him for the warning and said goodbye. Hansen thought that he was just young and stubborn, and it looked like he was going to get into trouble soon. Hyun-sung quickly ran deep into the forest. Suddenly he saw a slug. Its size was small, so it would be difficult to hit it. If so, then you can understand why beginners have a hard time with it. At that very moment, the slug splashed out acid. The target was dealt a devastating blow, and the player defeated the acid slime while gaining experience. Hyun-sung thought it was too easy. The guy realized that he wouldn't achieve anything here, and he'd better go and ask where the orc camp was. The guards couldn't believe that the newcomer was looking for the orc camp. Smith asked why he was doing this. Hyun-sung answered with bewilderment that he would go hunting. The guy did not understand what was happening with the guards. The men told the player not to even think about it. They said that Hyun-sung was still too young and had a long life ahead of him, so he couldn't ruin himself like that. The guards gave the player some gold coins. Hansen said that this guy was the spitting image of his nephew and he should take care of himself. Smith said not to even think about the slugs and let him go and buy a scroll in another village with this money. After this, Hyun-sung received the title of Beggar King. The guards could have simply answered that they didn't want to tell him. But the guy, a beggar of course, took the money. I'll have to find this camp myself. Hyun-sung thinks it should be much further than the slug clearing, probably even on the other side. He might even encounter other monsters along the way. Suddenly, he noticed the traces of someone's large paw under his feet. It seemed he was on the right track. Hyun-sung heard some sounds from the bushes. Red-skinned monsters came out to him, surprised to see a human in these surroundings. Hyun-sung had heard that orcs were green, but these were red. The monsters wanted this guy dead. Their movements were fast but cumbersome and imprecise, so the boy easily dodged them. It was foolish to rely only on the force of the blow because it was too predictable. Hyun-sung attacked one of the monsters right in the neck. He damaged his vital organ and the fatal blow was dealt. The nightmare of Thanatos was launched. The red orc suffered from the nightmare. Hallucinations deal damage to the orc for 5 seconds. The monsters screamed at everyone to run away from here. The guy rushed to attack everyone else. He deftly managed to dodge the monsters' attacks. After that, Hyun-sung immediately wanted to strike again. With a sharp sword, the guy attacked the neck again. His level was rising and the orc was screaming in pain. The monster started running away, but it didn't help him, and he was stabbed in the back. The player's level kept increasing. Hyun-sung thought that leveling up here was too easy for now. Orc hunting suited him. New red orcs advanced upon seeing the man. Hyun-sung will cope with them even without attack skills. After the raid on the orcs, the guy will choose one for himself. The monsters were surprised by the speed of the guy's movement because he was just a human. Hansen continued to stand guard, dying of boredom. Smith asked, "Isn't it wonderful that if they are cooling their heels, it means the villagers are safe?" Suddenly, the guards heard the advance of the red orcs. Hyun-sung emerged from behind the bushes. The guards didn't understand why the guy came straight out of there. They thought that maybe the guy hadn't listened to them and had now run away from the orcs. Now it became clear why the player was all rumpled. Hyun-sung felt awkward listening to these two now. The guy asked if they could tell him where he could sell all this. A large number of pieces of red orc skin fell out onto the floor. The guards couldn't believe what they saw. There were probably about 20 of them. One piece of skin comes from 2 orcs, so there are about 40 lying here. Smith pointed to the right and said that if the boy went that way, he would find the store. You wouldn't think that Hyun-sung is a real pro by his appearance. Then the two remembered their money and thought that perhaps they should ask the guy to return it. Hyun-sung found a store and went inside. He told the clerk that he wanted to sell something. The seller was surprised that the newcomer managed to defeat a couple of orcs, but these items that fell to him were somewhere out of 50. With this, the guy was able to raise his level quite well. The seller was even more surprised, because there was not only skin but also bones, teeth, and everything was in good condition. The man offered 150 gold coins for all of this. He didn't have enough gold here, and the man asked to wait a little. He held out a bag of gold coins, saying that there was a little more than 150 gold coins. 150 gold is about 15,000 won. If Hyun-sung can raise 15,000 won in less than 30 minutes of real life, then here you can earn even more than at work. The guy thanked the seller and left. Hyun-sung thought he would have to focus on level rather than money. But even now, he can make money on junk. The happy boy ran out of the village thinking that he needed to work even harder. The guards were watching this guy. It was time for Smith to admit that this newcomer was stronger than them. It seems like Hyun-sung enjoyed hunting so much that he rushed back so quickly. The guy realized that if the guards realized that he was not a newbie, they might ask for the money back, so he better run away from here quickly. Hyun-sung continued to hunt red orcs to earn as much money as possible. It wasn't that difficult here either. It's been 10 hours in the game, and the guy was able to level up. The only valuable thing that drops here is junk-like ingredients. But he hadn't even reached level 100 today, so he couldn't end it there. On top of all this, there were far fewer orcs appearing. Hyun-sung wanted to hunt stronger monsters, so he wouldn't waste time and would rather go to the village. Sitting on the rock, he suspected that there should be a boss somewhere here, and there are usually elite monsters near the boss, although most likely this newbie is nothing to them. If the guy wants to defeat a level 40 boss, he needs at least one attack skill. Hyun-sung decided to test his stat points. His strength and agility are at a good level, but to use skills more often, he needs more mana. The guy decided to focus on intelligence for mana. He spent 70 points on intelligence, 40 on agility, 16 on strength, and 16 on endurance. He was a little worried that his mana was low, but he could pump it up in the future. Now it was time to buy something from the store. Hyun-sung wanted to leave the skills for last and take the items first. He decided to start with a common rarity. The guy received a normal item and it was moved to his inventory. It was an iron dagger. Hyun-sung thought that he would throw it as in the description. The next item should be rare. He received a rare item and it was also moved to his inventory. It was a bloodstone ring. This ring seems to be the best of the rares. It's pretty cool to get good stuff this early. The next thing should be unique. Hyun-sung hoped that he would succeed here too. He should have slept more yesterday. He got a useless piece of junk from a unique rarity. A-list branch. This was clearly not what he wanted, but the guy hoped that at least the heroic item would not let him down. Hyun-sung wanted to get something he could use. He was given the unfortunate creation of A-list. It seemed like it was a heroic item, but it didn't have anything special. Apparently there was some quest connected with this thing, and it would still be useful in the future. In the end, there was a legendary item left. and it certainly shouldn't have disappointed. The guy got a legendary egg. All of its characteristics and description were hidden. Hyun Sung thought it was just awful and he wasted his money, but he still had the skills because it was for the sake of skills that he started all this. Suddenly, a red orc appeared behind. Hyun Sung immediately attacked him and quickly got rid of him. The guy wanted to start buying skills as soon as possible. Skills here are twice as expensive, but they are worth it. Items come in all sorts, but he will be able to use skills right away. First, he bought a normal skill. It was a running skill that added 10% speed. Now was the time for something rare. Finally, an attack skill called Maiden Shooting has dropped. Since mana has no precise form, the player can shoot fire, wind, water, and even bullets. The unique dropped the Berserker's battle cry, Heroic, which was called Siren's Serenade. They say that the siren seduced sailors. With the help of this skill, you can attract male creatures within a radius of 100 meters. Hyun Sung thought that the attraction skill was complete crap. The Reaper's Chain skill has been added to the legendary skill. With it, chains attack all enemies within a 30-meter radius, ignore defense, and deal 500% damage to the user. This was probably the most useful skill against a whole group of enemies. An unknown man watched through the monitor as Hyun Sung was leveling up. Inferno is the corporation that created the idea, headquartered in Korea. HQ Inferno is a user management team. The man told his boss that perhaps he should take a look at something. The boss replied that this was just crazy. Who knew that there would be a player who could do this? The head of the UP team, Jo Min-woo, didn't understand why the development team had introduced this in the first place. The man asked what they should do now. Jo Min-woo replied that they should add him to the watch list at the highest level. The worker replied that they had already done so, since the player had received the divine specialty. The team leader's head was boiling. He was furious that the player had chosen the village of Daeha. The man assumed that Hyun Sung chose her because he thought that he could level up faster that way. The boss became even more angry. Didn't he understand this right away? Another worker shouted that player Hyun Sung had opened a DP store. Jo Min-woo finally got his moment. At first, the team leader didn't pay any attention to him, but after watching him play, Jo Min-woo had a bad feeling. In the wrong hands, even the best specialization will be nothing more than a name. Hyun Sung is this guy. Even if he is an experienced player, without exceptional talent, it is impossible to play like a top 0.1%. This player is probably so good that even Jo Min-woo is amazed. But why hasn't this genius played until now? The boss would like to tweak the drop rates of items in Hyun Sung's DP shop. In general, the idea controls only the artificial creator. There are elements in the game created by this AI that even the development team cannot control. Jo Min-woo is an unbeliever, but all they can do now is pray. Fortunately, he didn't get anything useful out of the unique thing. When it was time to open the door heroically, it seemed as if the chef's prayers had been answered. It infuriated him that the thing fell out right now. Hyun Seong received Ilis's quest. He still has a key item left until this quest. Jo Min-woo hoped that things couldn't get any worse. The man hoped that the guy would get some kind of staff on the legendary one. But from the legendary Hyun Sung, he received an unknown egg. Everyone in the office didn't understand what this object was. But for now, it was enough that he couldn't use it right away. The boss asked the workers to find out about it from the development team. Now, Hyun Sung was choosing skills. Jo Min-woo hoped that at least the skills would be okay. The guy was getting normal skills and the team leader liked it. He begged for there to be no attackers. After the Siren's Serenade fell, Jo Min-woo laughed. Because no matter how skilled this guy is, without offensive skills he won't get far. Only the legendary one remained, but unfortunately for the man, the player won the jackpot. Hyun Sung has obtained the legendary skill Reaper's Chain. This is the best skill among the legendary ones. It is applicable in almost any situation. The man's shock made juice flow from his mouth. With his skills and talent, the chances of Hyun Seong not clearing out the orc camp were 0. This means that after killing the red orc boss, the chances that he will pass by the secret dungeon are also 0. Jo Min-woo decided to go and report this to his superiors. Once a month, Hyun Seong can purchase legendary items and skills through the DP shop. In the future, he'll have to spend more time on DP distribution. But for now, he doesn't have enough points to improve his narcolepsy skills, so sleep is the most important thing right now. In fact, sleepwalking works even while farming monsters. As the guy thought, the divine specialty is just a bomb. Hyun Sung is very happy that he left the office. He was always under stress at work, And now, in almost 3 hours of real time, he earned 100,000 won. If he earns that much as a rookie, then Hyuna gets even more. Hyuna said that her level is 331, which means she doesn't have to worry about living expenses. But Hyun Sung still had some pride left, and he wasn't going to live off Hyuna's money. The guy was still going to go towards his goal and reach level 300 in 3 months. It turns out it's time for him to go after the boss. In the middle of the Red Orc camp, a flag of torn red cloth and skulls fluttered. Hyun Sung tried to spot the boss from behind the bushes. Looking at the Red Orc sorcerer, the guy thought that he was probably an elite one. They have 2 sorcerers in the camp, so it will be difficult. You will have to spend DP. When the boss appears, it is worth using the Death Sabbath for control. And you also need to deal with Small Fry. The player used the Siren's Serenade to summon monsters to him. With this skill, the orcs immediately took notice. The Red Orcs heard the beautiful singing of the siren. The effect was simply incredible. Finally, the monsters noticed the player. The first to start running was the hero of the Red Orcs, Kurak. Apparently, this was their boss. The orcs ran to attack from different sides. Hyun Sung decided to try out the new legendary skill, the Reaper's Chain. These powerful chains attacked each of the Red Orcs. This attack only increased the guy's level. The Red Orc hero Kurak was defeated. After that, Hyun Sung received 50 DP, the Kurak Secret Passage card, the One Punch title, and Man of Great Possibilities. It was just incredible. There was a nice view from this area. There was a bunch of remains and ingredients lying on the ground, but the player didn't understand if it was possible to somehow take all of this into the inventory at once. The camp was still empty. New orcs no longer spawned, probably because there was little hunting here, or perhaps because of the new card you received. The map showed that not far from the Red Orc camp, there was Barak Karaka, a secret dungeon. The player assumed that if he cleared this dungeon too, all the monsters would respawn again. As he got closer, Hyun Sung noticed something. The passage to the secret dungeon was too obvious. Elite monsters are much more powerful and intelligent than normal monsters. Elite monsters can often use skills, and usually elite monsters are found alongside normal monsters in such dungeons. After going down the stairs, Hyun Sung approached the entrance to the secret dungeon. It was time to go for experience and things. When the boy entered the secret dungeon of the Orc Tomb, he was told that he was a pioneer and would receive double experience for clearing this dungeon. The souls of the Orc warriors awakened. If the player attacks their souls without using skills, the damage will be half as much, and it will be more difficult to attack with a normal attack. Apart from Reaper's Chains, Hyun Sung's only offensive skill is Volley, so it won't be easy. Suddenly, Hyun Sung met the soul of an Orc warrior. There was only one of him here. As expected, the damage from the hand is an order of magnitude less. The soul of the Orc warrior screamed for the man to die. Hyun Sung used the Volley skill. The player hit the enemy's vulnerable spot and delivered a critical hit. The skill also has critical hits, but the guy didn't deal damage with a weapon, so Thanatos' nightmare doesn't activate. Hyun Sung continued to strike with his sword one after another. The Orc spirit struck back, but the boy managed to dodge. Hyun Sung hit his weak spot again. The knees were also vulnerable spots. The guy believed that any of the attack skills could crit. As he thought, Hyun Sung hit the timing of the fight. Now that the guy has memorized the timing of the attacks, perfect timing here is unusual, but it is possible to dodge. Hyun Sung can use this combination of attacks and skills and win easily. A moment later, the spirit of the Orc warrior evaporated. The guy assumed that there would be about 50 monsters here, which meant that he would be given 5 levels for the entire dungeon. Since he had already memorized the order of their attacks, it was time to go clear the dungeon. At this time, the ant was walking with Hyuna. The ant noticed that the girl had signed up for so many rehabilitation courses to get back on her feet faster, but now it would be harder to hide it. Hyuna is glad that they can go to them while her brother plays. Auntie asked if this game was really that fun. Hyuna told the woman that she should definitely try it too. When I started, I doubted my abilities. Sister guessed that Hyun Sung was probably already around level 20, although he said that his specialty was good, then perhaps between 10th and 15th. Hyuna and her aunt passed by the bus stop, and the girl glanced at the group of 3 girls. If it weren't for the accident, she could have gone to school and lived like them. But in the idea, Hyuna also met many good people. The girl has already told the guild members about her brother, although she is not sure if he will want to join. Hyuna didn't want to rush things, so she had to wait until Hyun Sung reached at least level 100. They arrived at Downa Rehabilitation Hospital again. Hyuna continued training and talked to the doctor at the same time. Mina wondered when the girl would play with her brother. Hyuna replied that if her brother had a heroic specialty, then he probably hadn't reached level 5 yet. It's very hard to get good skills before level 30. Mina asked why the girl was so happy. Hyuna talked about their bet on whether her brother would reach the top 1,000 in 3 months. The girl laughed because she understood that this was, of course, unrealistic. She thought she should have asked him to buy her something when she won, and she started jumping up and down with happiness. Mina said it was better not to do that. Hyuna asked if the doctor wanted to play idea, but she refused because she wasn't very interested. The girl offered to help the doctor, but she asked what about her brother. Hyuna didn't understand what was going on, since she could only help him after 3 months. Mina thought that she should add bipolar disorder to the medical record. Meanwhile, Hyun-sung had to kill the mini-boss and the main orc. Once he dealt with them, he would get double experience, and then he would be above level 30. Already at level 30, the guy will receive an additional specialty skill. Reaper's chains instantly kill, and this is not always convenient, and Reaper's damage is only suitable for crushing the target, so in the future, Hyun-sung will use it less and less. The player hoped that he would receive a useful skill. Basically, there should be mini-bosses behind that huge door. Then it was time to go. The doors opened and the soul of the Orc Sorcerer awakened. And the soul of the Orc Sorcerer awakens the souls of the Orc Warriors. Hyun-sung didn't expect that there would also be Orc Warriors behind the door. The monsters wanted to show this player the power of the Orcs. The head was the soul of the Orc Sorcerer. His soul used the skill, and the power of the Orc Warrior souls increased. The guy didn't expect the Sorcerer to give the others additions. These orcs are clearly different from those that came before. Hyun-sung can, of course, kill them all at once with the Reaper's chain, but it's better to save it for the boss, and he can handle these ones himself. Suddenly, the boy noticed a streaming fire behind him. Hyun-sung quickly jumped back and dodged the attack. Could it have been that orc's doing? As if the improvements weren't enough for them, they also used spells. The player didn't know what awaited him with such a level of difficulty, but it was time for him to show the orcs what he was capable of. In the blink of an eye, Hyun-sung attacked and dealt a colossal blow to several monsters at once. The orc sorcerer raised his staff and used magic. He attacked not only with fire, but also with an instant explosion. The experience from this battle may come in handy when fighting the local boss. So first the guy wanted to learn the types of orc attacks. 5 minutes later, Hyun-sung destroyed the soul of the orc warrior. The sorcerer began to cast spells much less often. Apparently, his mana was running out. Hyun-sung dealt with everyone in no time. The orc sorcerer was clearly displeased. Now only he remains. The guy jumped and attacked with a sword. Eventually, the player destroyed the soul of the orc sorcerer. His level instantly increased. The battle was not easy, and besides, it lasted longer than the guy thought. He almost ran out of strength. As a reward, he received only all sorts of unnecessary things. But at least he was given a level. Apparently, there was a boss waiting behind the red door. Since the Reaper's chains were enough for the previous monsters, the battle with this one will be much faster than with the sorcerer. The doors to the boss have finally opened. The notification asks if the player wants to go down to the second floor of the Orc Tomb dungeon. It turns out that this is not the boss yet, so you have to move on. He definitely uses the Reaper's chains on him. Hyun-sung went further. The guy was irritated that the endless staircase never ended. The user management office is where the VR idea is being monitored. Because time flows differently in the capsules than in real life, the office is also accessed through the capsules in Inferno HQ. The boss approached one of the workers, who looked rather tired, and asked how much time had passed. The man replied that it had been 5 hours, but in theory it had been 25. Another worker said it was a serious violation of the overtime law. Another responded that even though they were working in VR, only real time was counted. The head of the UP team, Jo Min-woo, told them to concentrate on the task at hand, or if they were so dissatisfied, they could come and report to their superiors on his behalf. The workers immediately apologized and got back to work. It had only been a year since the game had been released. Jo Min-woo didn't understand why they were so concerned about a newcomer. Luckily, the management doesn't care about this too much. There is only one such player confirmed at the moment, and he is already a year behind the rest of the users, so there is no need to worry about him. The problem lies with director Min Yura from the development team. Only she was concerned about the user Lee Hyun-sung's question. Apparently, it's because of his specialization, Descendant of Thanatos. It differs from other additional specializations by its high rank. Minura said that Descendant of Thanatos was created to fill the world with additional content for users. According to her, no one was supposed to get it. Who would have thought that in such an expensive capsule, someone would just sleep for 10,000 hours? If there wasn't such a specialty in the game, Joe Min-woo wouldn't be working in this department. So he thinks that if it weren't for Minura, he would have been transferred to a completely different place a long time ago. Minura. It is no secret that the idea became so special precisely because of her, which is why the company supports her decision. Joe Min-woo noticed that player Lee Hyun-sung had returned to the game again. The worker noticed that the guy was quickly moving through the secret dungeon. The boss asked if the player had already passed the mini-boss. The man replied that he had, and even without the Reaper's chains, apparently the guy was testing his personal skills. In my opinion, he doesn't even level up or use skills in battle. At this rate, Hyun-sung will be fully armed as boss. The worker confirmed that this was indeed the case, and the player had already reached level 33. Joe Min-woo wasn't happy because this skill unlocks at level 30. If it were another player with Descendant of Thanatos, they would have made this much progress in at least a week. But it was incredible that Hyun-sung only needed 1 day. The experience required to level up increases significantly after level 30. In many, leveling up between levels 30 and 60 is considered one game obstacle. In the game, they compensate for the time spent with new skills. The other players in the area where Hyun-sung was now suddenly slow down. I wonder how this guy will handle it. Joe Min-woo hopes that the player will stay there as long as possible, because the reward for the dungeon will be huge. Even in the DP shop, where the chances are low, Hyun-sung was able to pull out great things. Moreover, it was all completely legal and did not contradict the gameplay in any way. In fact, it was simply an acceleration of its development. So they have no real reason to limit his progress. Suddenly, Joe Min-woo started jumping and screaming with happiness. Paramount Mountain is a place where even the top ranks have to work hard to win. And at this moment, there was a fierce battle going on there. A team of players tried to defeat a huge monster that fired lasers from its eye. The huge monster was ready to strike. One girl tried to hold his fist with a sword. The knight tried to help and also attacked. The one-eyed monster screamed in pain. One heroine with bright red hair shouted at everyone to stay out of the impact zone. The players began to retreat and moved further away. The monster came closer to her. Now it was her turn to attack. The rocks and ground around her began to rise. A few seconds later, a ravine appeared around her, and above them in the sky was a huge lump of earth. It was a gravity meteor attack. Soon there was a large explosion directed at the monster. The players were ready to start attacking at any moment. One girl rushed to help Sunny. Sunny has impressive skills, but even they can't kill this monster. Most likely, the girl stunned him. A powerful explosion stunned Aptolican, the Lord of the Cyclops, for 5 seconds. Sunny fell to the ground, exhausted. A girl came up to her and took her away, carrying her to a safe place. The rest of the players tried to inflict maximum damage. Aptolican began to scream in insane pain. The team of players performed an incredible feat and destroyed Aptolican, the ruler of the Cyclops. All of their stats were increased by 10, and the monster began to gradually disappear. They dropped a large amount of resources such as gold, chests, and swords. The girl thanked the players for their help, holding Sunny in her arms. The knight said that there was no need to thank him, since it was the head who had done a great job today. Sunny said that Uncle Tanguri was right and it was Sister Rin's victory. One girl said that if it weren't for Tanguri and Rin, none of them would be able to tank the Cyclops' attacks. The guy also said that Rin had done a really good job today, but if Hyuna had been there, it would have been even easier. He also asked why she hadn't come today. Sunny told Kaiser not to bother Hyuna. Tanguri agreed and said that Hyuna has health problems. She went to the hospital today. Kaiser replied that he did not know this information, but it was worth finding out about it first. Sunny remembered that Hyuna wanted to invite her brother over, but if that was the case, then he had to be at least a unique rank. Rin remembered that she seemed to have said that he hadn't told her about it yet. Kaiser assumed that the girl knew about his rank, but just didn't want to talk about it, and anyway, Hyuna knew their rules very well. One girl asked why the guy thought she was skipping. Kaiser was just worried about her. This was the Heroes Guild, including Hyuna. The guild only has 7 members. Despite its small size, they stand tall alongside other famous guilds. Guildmaster Rin and Sunny are legendary rank, Tanguri, Hyuna, and Stu are hero rank. I and Kaiser are of unique rank. This is a guild that only accepts the best of the best players. Although they do not try to look like the elite of the game, The minimum requirement for joining is a unique rank of the specialty, so there cannot be many players among them. Because everyone was making such a fuss about Hyuna's brother, Rin decided to invite her little sister. Everyone was curious about her specialty. The younger sister had a unique rank, so the entry conditions were not violated. The girl had recently changed her specialty, so she could catch up with them soon. Sunny hoped that her sister could join them soon. Rin replied that she was only level 50, but she had started playing a month ago. Usually it takes about 2 months to level up to 60. It's cool if she increased 50 levels in just a month. Kaiser thought that since the girl still hadn't invited her, it meant she wanted to wait until her sister reached the 100th, in which case he agreed. All the guys in the guild agreed, but Sunny was the happiest of all, because Rin was like a sister to her. Rin thanked everyone and said that she would not be playing on this account for now. The girl will help her sister. It is difficult to get the necessary items in Idea, all because instead of things, materials and consumables often drop. Therefore, some people create a second account and pump it up to collect resources. Kaiser thought that a character with his sister's level would be more useful than Rin's base. Tanguri realized that they would be better off without common raids for now. Stu and I weren't happy about having to hunt together. Rin was worried about what the reaction would be regarding the suspension of general raids, but apparently in vain. Then it was time to divide their spoils. The boys argued about who would take what things. When the division of the spoils was over, it was time to return to the guild. Sunny said goodbye to Rin. Rin wanted to finish the loot and go to the second account. Ye-eun said that she would wait for her in Raha City. Meanwhile, Hyun-sung destroyed the soul of the Red Orc warrior and received 1 DP for using the skill Thanatos' Dream. It was time to stop wasting time. But who would have thought that there would be a second floor here? The guy managed to earn enough DP, so he uses the Death Sabbath. There was enough health, stamina had already been restored, so it was time to go. Once the player enters the room, they will not be able to exit the game or use a teleport scroll until they defeat the boss. The system asked again if Hyun-sung was sure of his choice, and he agreed. There was a huge boss sitting inside. This room was huge, 5 times bigger than the mini-bosses. This is not surprising, given the difference in the sizes of the mobs themselves. It seems that this boss was sleeping, since he wasn't paying any attention. Usually these monsters have a second phase. If Hyun-seong uses the Reaper chains now, he will be in trouble after the second phase. The guy was going to use his powers first, and then use the chains at the end. Suddenly the boss heard someone's presence and woke up. He stood up and started screaming loudly, the screaming giving Hyun-sung goosebumps. There was no time to waste, and it was necessary to attack immediately. Suddenly, the guy noticed that his eyes were getting cloudy. At such an important moment, his eyes closed. Thanatos' narcolepsy skill was activated, and the boy was forced to fall asleep. Everyone in the Idea office screamed with joy. They were saved. Narcolepsy worked in time. Now an artificial intelligence will fight for Hyun-sun, and on his own, he definitely won't be able to defeat the raid boss, Karak. One man called the boss. He asked if Thanatos' sleepwalking was designed to allow the player to retain his skills. After all, that means the AI will replicate all of his skills. Jo Min-woo thought about it and agreed. It turns out this guy will defeat the boss. Did everyone really think that Jo Min-woo was happy that the AI would lose to Karak? In fact, it was expected. The guy falls asleep and sleepwalking is activated, and the artificial intelligence still easily passes the boss. If he uses Death Sabbath and Reaper's chains, the boss won't even survive to the second phase. Now everyone will see what will happen in this case. It seems the gods have heard Jo Min-woo's prayers after all. Hyun-sung continued to struggle while in his sleep. 20 minutes have passed since then. The guy destroyed the maddened Karak. The people sitting in the office were delighted by this fight. The worker said that I think the AI has become even better than Hyun-sung, which means that once the player gets used to the game mechanics, he will be at the same level. Jo Min-woo thought it might even be cool. Suddenly the workers saw something strange. The guy lay down on the ground, and no one understood what was happening. Hyun-sung fell asleep next to a large amount of gold. The workers were surprised that the guy wouldn't even take the things he received. And there are even high-ranking items there. One girl said that if they weren't collected now, they would soon disappear. Jo Min-woo started laughing. That's exactly what he was talking about. He was simply on cloud 9 because he knew it would be like this. The sleepwalking AI can only fight, and immediately after the danger is destroyed, the player will fall asleep again. The protected dungeon will restart after a while the player will be teleported to the nearest village. Simply put, if he didn't collect his things after killing the boss, they would all be lost. One male worker even felt a little sorry for him. Hyun Sung left the game and returned to the real world. He hated this narcolepsy skill. The guy realized that he shouldn't be sad. Yes, if 8 hours pass in life, then in the game it will be as much as 40. The artificial intelligence must be well pumped up. Suddenly his phone rang. Jae Hwan called him. It was quite unexpected. The guys met and decided to have a few drinks. It had been a long time since they had gotten together like this, because Hyun Sung was always busy. Hyun Sung thought that since Jeon Jae Hwan suddenly called him like that, there must be a good reason for it. Jeon Jae Hwan is one of Hyun Sung's few friends. They have been friends since middle school. The guy said that he opened his own business. Hyun Sung was very happy for his friend because he had long dreamed of this. He had to make his way from the very bottom. Essentially, his job remains the same. He edits videos to make them look cooler. Most of these were according to the idea. These were videos about this game. Time flies 5 times faster in the idea, so it's impossible to stream now. So the regular content on it has become even more popular, and the game is exciting. That's why the demand for video editors has increased, there is no broadcast, and you can't make much money from videos without editing. High-quality videos are usually made in companies. That's why blogger managers often trust companies with their work, because they'll definitely do it well. In addition, players' skills are more important now, so they also have to portray customers as skilled warriors in their videos. So Jae Hwan created a company of professional editors. This means that the guy will have a lot of work to do now. Hyun Sung asked if Jae Hwan had signed a contract with anyone on MeTube. The guy just founded a company yesterday and tomorrow he'll do it. They had already talked about Jae Hwan, and the boy was curious about how his old friend was doing. He couldn't believe that Hyun Sung had quit his job, and without any backup plan. The guys had known each other for a long time, so they could share secrets. Hyun Sung replied that it was about the idea. The guy was going to earn money inside the game. Jae Hwan was very surprised and asked if he had played it before. Hyun Sung replied that not even one day yet. Jae Hwan asked what his friend's specialty was. The boy grasped everything on the fly. Hyun Sung was surprised when he heard that his friend had a divine specialty. After a short pause, he took a sip. Jae Hwan immediately asked what level Hyun Sung was at. The guy said that his level is now about 30, and Jae Hwan was stunned, because he said that he had not played even for a day. Judging by the time in reality, that was true. In reality, Hyun Sung played for about 8 hours. Jae Hwan stood up and said that his friend needed to film a video. The guy remembered that Hyun Sung was even invited to the Pro League at school, but he couldn't believe that he was capable of such a thing. Jae Hwan asked the guy if he knew how much people charge on MeTube for one video. It was $1 million. Hyun Sung thought he was probably joking, but with a good video you can easily make $1 million a month, and there is one skilled guy that Jae Hwan works with, so he earns a whole $100 million a month. After this conversation, Hyun Sung immediately asked where he could sign a contract. To do this, you need to enter the game and say, "I'm filming a video," and then simply send the file to Jae Hwan. Hyun Sung couldn't believe it actually worked. It looked so simple. His friend assured him not to worry. People were happy to watch skilled players play. The guy agreed and said that his friend knew better and asked if he could take over his channel. He probably asked for a lot and asked for forgiveness. It wasn't that, Jae Hwan said not to ask others. They were friends. So he wanted to say it straight out. If anyone agreed to this, they could just take all of Hyun Sung's profits. That's why the guy asked his friend. He thinks that a knowledgeable person like him will cope with managing his channel much better, and the profit can be divided in half. Jae Hwan said that you should always ask for at least 80%. But the guy waved it off and said that you just have to agree. When Hyun Sung ran out of money for Hyuna's medical expenses, his friend gave him the money he had saved for tuition. How could he forget such a good deed? Hyun Sung stated that they had decided to split it 50-50, and if not, there would be no deal. In middle school, Jae Hwan was bullied by everyone, and only Hyun Sung extended a helping hand to him. Because of this, Jae Hwan wanted to take only 10% or nothing at all. When Hyun Sung returned home, he began to sort out the capsule. His friend said that if he inserted this flash drive, the video would appear. After connecting the flash drive, a menu opened. Hyun Sung pressed the video recording button. A list of mobs opened on the screen. Hyun Sung has revealed the latest video from the secret dungeon in the Orc Tomb. Additional settings appeared on the screen. The guy was surprised that there was even something like that here. Hyun Sung sent the video to his friend. In the evening, Jae Hwan received a notification on his phone. This guy realized that his friend was clearly not joking. He immediately sat down at the computer to watch the video. Hyun Sung appeared wearing a mask in the video, although he said he didn't understand how it worked. Jae Hwan was amazed at how his comrades skillfully dealt with monsters. All the attacks looked simply mesmerizing. There was no need to even edit anything. This guy wanted to watch it later, but now he wanted to watch the video of the boss fight. The boss looked rather bulky against the player's background. Suddenly, Jae Hwan saw that Hyun Sung had fallen asleep and hoped that it wasn't so. Suddenly, the player's aura changed. The guy controlled the fight almost the same way, but his style of play was completely different. They were graceful after all. Hyun Sung waited and then suddenly attacked in vulnerable spots. If he usually acted with the pressure of the hunter's attacks, then with the boss, his every move was thought out to the smallest detail. Every action is performed simply flawlessly. He is just like a knight. His movements are perfectly calibrated, as if memorized. It was like a completely different personality. The hunter's style is good, but the knight's style is much cooler. The hunter tries to kill the enemy with one lunge, while the knight calmly and relentlessly strangles the enemy with attacks. The second stage began and Jae Hwan was very surprised. Something was running through the boss's entire body. This video made Jae Hwan's hair stand on end. Something went wrong. Hyun Sung used the legendary Reaper's chain skill. The chains quickly moved to attack. A moment later, the orc screamed loudly in pain. Hyun Sung continued to strike relentlessly. Eventually, the enemy surrendered. He slowly began to disappear. Jae Hwan was very shocked when he saw the footage of this fight. Hyun Sung received a notification on his phone. Jae Hwan wrote to a friend about how delighted he was with the footage of the fight. Hyun Sung called his friend and asked if he was awake. Jae Hwan hadn't slept all night because of him. The guy was already starting to worry that his video was bad, and that he probably shouldn't have tried to edit it and sacrifice sleep since it was so bad. Jae Hwan said that it was the best video he had ever seen, even with the edited ones. Even the top players in the world never made videos like that. Hyun Sung thought his friend was exaggerating. Jae Hwan called because the video was so cool that it was ready to be uploaded. The guy promised that he and his guys would not sleep all week, but would make the video perfect. Jae Hwan thought that he shouldn't worry, because thanks to this video, he won't have to work on anything else. He will let his friend know when the video is uploaded to MeTube. They said goodbye and hung up. Jae Hwan's entire team was also delighted with this video. To improve on such an amazing video, the guy will have a lot more to learn. Hyuna thanked for the delicious food. The girl ate with her brother. She was curious to know at least what rank Hyun Sun had, but if he told her, Hyuna would immediately guess everything. If his rank had been lower than unique, he certainly would not have resigned. Hyuna thought that perhaps Hyun Seong had a heroic rank, and then he would be able to join the guild. Sister Rin leveled up from 52 to 60 in a day. Even though the boss helps her, it's very fast for a unique rank. Hyuna asked her brother what level he was, and he replied that he didn't remember, but it seemed like he was a little over 30. The girl was very surprised. Hyun Sung leveled up 30 levels in a day. It sounded simply impossible. Hyuna asked incredulously if Hyun Sung had started playing yesterday. He changed his specialization at the first level. In that case, it was almost impossible. But why didn't he start playing right away then? Hyun Sung was very surprised. After entering the game, he received a large number of new messages. When will he have time to read all of them? For now, he wanted to see what he got for defeating the boss. Hyun Sung hoped that something good would happen to him. The items from the secret dungeon were hidden somewhere. The guy slept for 40 hours due to the narcolepsy skill and increased strength by 10, agility by 3, HP by 5, magic by 15, and intelligence by 7. After clearing the secret dungeon, it turns into a normal one. It is recommended to pick up the items as soon as possible. Hyun Sung has defeated all nearby enemies, and Thanatos' sleepwalking is disabled. Due to the dungeon restart, Hyun Seong was teleported to the nearest village. After the dungeon restart, all unpicked items were irretrievably destroyed. He sat down on the ground in despair. If you think about it, he really did wake up inside the village. Hyun Sung lost all those things. If he pumped up his strength, magic, and stamina a little, he would be able to equip Ilis's failed creation. He was also given new skills after level 30. The skill was called Thanatos Nictorn. If someone disturbed Thanatos' sleep, he would sing a special song to the uninvited guests. Those who heard this melody were entangled in a killing silence. It was a divine skill that didn't consume any mana or DP and could be used constantly. Although, of course, there are probably things that only drop from secret dungeons, for example, skill books. Hyun-seong realized that they couldn't just disappear and started running. The village guards thought that the boy ran away when they saw him, even though they didn't even ask for the money back. Hyun-seong ran into the orc camp shouting for the map of the secret dungeon to be given to him. The guy killed all the orcs around and was furious. There was no longer any passage to the secret dungeon. People thought this guy was completely crazy. Hyun-sung couldn't stop laughing hysterically. The guards decided to just forget about the money. He had to think positively. At least he wasn't dead, because then he wouldn't have been able to log in for 24 hours. Hyun-sung had survived that dungeon, so he shouldn't complain about losing those things. The guy decided to test his characteristics. His characteristics were already enough to put on Alice's unsuccessful creation. You could just put it on your weapon. As soon as Hyun-sung put it on his sword, the sword's hilt cracked. In an instant, he acquired a new form and appearance. Now he looked incredibly cool. Hyun-sung hid his sword. Now all he can do is continue hunting. The guy opened a search. He wanted to find a hunting ground for levels 70 and 80. It was a place called Reha, which sounds like an improved version of the village of Deha. That's where Hyun-sung was planning to go. One guy was screaming for someone to help him because he was stuck here. Someone was looking for players to clear the cave. Someone was looking for a thief. It was the central square of the city of Reha. Many players gathered around a huge statue with a fountain. Hyun-sung thought there would be fewer people here. Some players asked for help from more experienced players. The guy hoped that there would be fewer players in the dungeons. It would be better if they stopped wasting time and went hunting in the dungeon. Hyun-sung decided that it would be better to leave before they started begging for his things. He was wondering where the level 80 dungeon was, but the entrance was inaccessible. To enter the Lycan's dungeon, you had to have a group of at least 3 people. Also, in the dungeon, you can't disband the group while all its members are still alive. Hyun-sung decided to return back to the square. He started shouting that he was looking for people to go through Lycan's dungeon. He tearfully begged for at least someone to go with him into the dungeon. Rin logged in from her second account. The girl helped her sister, but she had leveled up 8 levels in a day. Rin didn't understand why she was in such a hurry, because joining the guild could wait. Anyway, the problem is that all the dungeons of Ray are for 3. Hardly anyone wants to go to the Cave of Lycan. Rina thought about writing to some newbie, just for the sake of numbers. Suddenly, the girl heard someone shouting that he was looking for people to go through the Lycan cave. Rin thought she was mistaken. Usually, high-level players on a second account go with their guild members, so this is not one of them. Not far from her stood Hyun-sung, who continued to scream. Rin looked at the guy. He was wearing his starting clothes. And the girl thought that maybe this was a second account. High-ranking players go hunting on second accounts for one purpose only, to improve their personal skills. This was the most suitable and only option. A girl approached Hyun-sung and asked if he was the one looking for people to go to Lycan's cave. The guy was very happy to see her. Rin said that there would be another girl with her, so together there would be 3 of them. Hyun-sung said that there was no one with him, then they could go to her sister. The guys introduced themselves to each other. Rin explained that she and her sister wanted to clear out Lycan's cave, but they were missing one person. The girl asked how long Hyun-seong was going to hunt. The guy didn't understand why she was asking. Rin must have rushed it and it sounded rude. The guy assured her that everything was fine. The girls wondered if he was going to continue hunting. Maybe they could join in. Rin thought it was obvious, since all the 100th level dungeons in the Reha district required a party. The girl thought that the guy was probably around level 70 or 80, which meant that this wasn't a second account. Rin suggested that they fight together in the future, since it was impossible to enter a level 80 dungeon without a group. Now Hyun-sung understood what was being said. The girl apologized for their not having very high levels and asked if he minded. Hyun-sung said it was okay because he was also low level. He thought he was the one who should apologize. Rin thought it would be nice to go to the honeycomb level dungeons with this guy. I also wonder if Hyun-sung can keep up with their speed. Ye-yoon is a dual-blade warrior. She is very fast, so if they pick up the pace too quickly, they will have to stop. But there is no need to rush either. With this guy, Rin could start to control her impatience. Rin received a message from her little sister and asked her to wait a second. Ye-yoon asked if Rin had found anyone, since she was empty. The girl replied that she had found someone and suggested meeting at a cafe. Rin told Hyun-sung that it was time for them to go, but before that, the boy wanted to buy himself a new sword. The girl was going to wait for the guy here and suggested going to the blacksmith, who is the best in this city. Hyun-sung ran to the blacksmith to get a new sword. Rin thought that the guy was too fast for level 80. It seems like Hyun Sung is also focusing on agility, so he won't slow them down too much. The guy came back and said they could go. His things were still the same. Hyun Seong bought himself a rare sword. It seems that due to Alice's failed creation, it looks no different from an ordinary sword. The sword also received double damage from Ilis's failed creation, making the sword suitable even for level 120 monsters. The boys could go. Rin's sister was waiting for them in a cafe nearby. Hyun Sung and Rin came to Cafe Dobo. As soon as I walked inside, I could smell the pleasant aroma of coffee. Ye Yun was standing nearby. Hyun Sung thought that the girl looked young, and perhaps she was the same age as Hyuna, although perhaps even younger. Age doesn't matter here, though. If they want to go to Lycan's cave, then they're both pretty strong, and Rina probably has a high-level main account since she knows so much about the game. The guy introduced himself and said that he was hoping for a good hunt. Ye Yun also introduced herself. The girl wasn't very talkative. The boys sat down at the table. Now they will go to the cave, and since Hyun Sung is going to continue playing here, they will cooperate in the future. Yeon made it clear that they were low-level, but they wouldn't burden the guy with their skills. Hyun Sung had already told Rin that he was also low-level, so it was okay. He realized that Ye Yun was not silent, but simply confident, although she didn't seem arrogant. Hyun Sung felt this girl's desire to develop more and more. It seems that Rin said that they were sisters. There were some similarities, but their characters were completely different. Although he and Hyuna are also very different, Hyun Sung dreamed that the day would soon come when he could hunt with his sister. It was time to start. Rin said that she would invite the guy to the group now. Hyun Sung was a little nervous because this was his first gaming team. After being accepted into the team, a sign appeared above the guy which confused the sisters. The 35th level was shown above Hyun Sung. The girls were in a bad mood because it looked like they would be the ones going through the dungeon. Hyun Sung laughed nervously. Rin thought about how the guy's speed didn't match that of level 35. That kind of speed was something that only level 80 specialized players could achieve. With such stats, he should have a high-rank specialization, probably at least heroic, although it wouldn't give such agility at level 35. Ye Yun thought that he was one of those who completed content at the expense of others. Rin thought that Hyun Seong's other stats were probably not much lower, so that meant his specialty was legendary. Rin simply had to play with him. Ye Yun turned to her sister and asked what they were going to do. Hyun Sung was very nervous because he thought that he would be kicked out of here immediately. There were many thoughts in his head. Rin replied that everything was fine, which greatly surprised her sister. If the guy wants to go there, it means he has enough skills to fight, regardless of the level. Hyun Sung confirmed this. Rin was going to test his skills. Ye Yun thought it would be better than looking for someone else. Hyun Sung asked the girls if they minded if he filmed the hunt. Rin asked if the guy had his own channel. Hyun Sung said that he created the channel only recently. His videos are still being edited, so he will be filming videos from the moment he enters the dungeon. The guy stood up and said they could go. The girls were confused. Won't they go there right away? Ye Yun said that it looked like he had only recently started playing Idea, but he seemed to know how to play, so they should go. Since that was the case, Rin agreed to go right away. Hyun Sung asked if they wanted to do anything before that because it was his first time hunting in a party. Rin explained that they usually go through the monster stats or the map of the area before a raid. They just thought it might be useful information for him since he was new to the game. Hyun Sung didn't understand what the fun of the game was if he had to learn everything by heart. In that case, they could already go to Lycan's cave. The boys were already approaching the cave. Rin reported that they were there and asked if everyone was ready. Ye Yun asked why Hyun Sung didn't go first, which surprised Rin, as you should never say that during group raids. The girl said that they should understand what the guy was capable of in general, and convinced him that he shouldn't worry because if something happened, they would immediately help. During dungeon raids, you can't leave the group, so some people intentionally set up their teammates to get more experience and items for themselves. Rin told her sister that it was not right to ask for such a thing, but Yeun thought it was quite fair. Hyun Sung happily agreed, surprising the girls. He thought it would not be very good if they could not trust him during the raid. His level is really low, so he agrees to demonstrate his strength. Rin thought that if she refused him now, the guy would think that she considered him weak. Hyun Sung said that it was time to start, and they all entered the dungeon Lycan's Cave. Players haven't entered this dungeon for a long time. The monsters have woken up after a long hunger strike, so they have become 20% stronger. They will receive 50% more experience for 5 game days. Hyun-sung immediately opened the video recording settings upon entering to film from a third-person perspective. He wore a mask on his face to protect his anonymity. The girls asked the guy why he needed a mask, and he replied that it was just his style. The roar of monsters was heard nearby. It's time for a little warm-up. Hyun-sung stood in front of the monster and stretched his shoulders. This monster was humanoid. The monster rushed to attack, and Hyun-sung took up his sword to strike. The girls were shocked that the guy was not going to dodge the monster's attack, because he hadn't even pulled out his blade yet. Ye-won thought that she had rushed things and that the guy might get killed now. Hyun-sung struck the mob first. The sisters' jaws dropped at such a perfect reception. The guy dealt a crushing blow. Hyun-sung realized that he could deliver critical hits without hitting vulnerable spots. A charge of nightmare appeared behind the monster. Hyun-sung used Thanatos Nocturne. The girls looked at it in bewilderment because they didn't understand what it was and what was happening. A charge of nightmare entered the monster's head. His entire body was permeated with a dark aura. A moment later, the monster fell to his knees. Hyun-sung defeated the werewolf and received 1 DP for the Thanatos Dream Effect. The girls couldn't believe that this was even possible. Rin saw everything with her own eyes. The guy acted too cleanly and accurately, and even if it was some kind of skill, the attack's impact still depended on the player's skill. Ye-yoon asked who this guy was and how he could move like that. Rin wondered in her mind if she could also fight on her own. It would be too difficult for her. Hyun-sung's movements in battle were an art form. The girl felt that she had to recruit the boy into the hero guild. Now, Hyun-sung understood what Thanatos' Nocturne was capable of and how it would be able to finish off enemies while leaving them with very little health. Hyun-sung hoped that he had now shown what he was capable of. The girls couldn't believe that at such a low level, Hyun-sung had killed a level 80 monster with just 3 attacks. Now it was time to start the real hunt. 3 werewolves were advancing from the front. The team moved forward, and Hyun-sung was the first to run. Ye-yoon noticed that the guy was faster than her, who emphasized speed. It wasn't a skill, since there were no visible effects around. Apparently his agility itself was so high. The girl understood that she needed to speed up. The werewolves wanted to bloodthirstily attack the guy approaching them. In a second, Hyun-sung drew his blade and attacked. The guy dealt a crushing blow, and the nightmare of Thanatos was activated. The target was paralyzed by hallucinations and pain for 5 seconds. This time quickly passed, and the monsters rushed to attack again. Their movements were fast, but Hyun-sung wounded each of them with a few swings of his sword. The guy struck a blow to a vulnerable spot. This attack became critical. A moment later, Hyun-sung activated Thanatos Nocturne. At this time, Ye-yoon was just running up. She saw how all the monsters became paralyzed and a dark aura flew around them. Hyun-sung decapitated each one with a few swings. The guy didn't run that far, but he still killed 3 monsters before Ye-yoon caught up with him. At this time, Rin ran up to them. She did not understand what had happened and where all the monsters had gone. Hyun-sung was already tired of waiting for them and suggested that they go further. The girls, before they could react, saw the guy running further. Rin suggested that her sister go too. Hyun-sung ran ahead. There were 4 werewolves standing nearby, and there were still 4 minutes left before Thanatos' Nocturne would recharge. In this case, the guy decided to try out the new equipment in battle without using skills. Hyun-sung wielded the new sword with skill. The werewolf screamed from freshly received wounds. The guy realized that when he attacks with a turn, he deals even more damage. Rare weapons are superior to ordinary ones, even in such small things. The werewolves continued to attack, but Hyun-sung kept dodging, and each time he unexpectedly caused damage to them. Suddenly, the werewolf blocked the attack with his hand. He even made a counterattack from the block. But he failed to defend himself, and the guy still inflicted a large number of wounds and cuts. Hyun-sung was about to deliver the final, decisive blow. The guy noticed that Ye-yoon had already caught up with him. He was fascinated by the girl's twin blades. Ye-yoon tore the monsters apart mercilessly. Suddenly, the boy saw someone behind him and remembered that there were 4 of them. Turning around, he saw a werewolf who was overcome with horror. The monster was shaking and whining. Monsters, like people, can be afraid of the actions of players. But despite this, Hyun-sung mercilessly beheaded the monster. After the werewolf's body evaporated, something fell out of it. A spear fell out that Hyun-sung didn't need at all, but he still wanted to take it, because the spear could be sold for a higher price. Ye-won was doing well, so it would be better not to help her, as it could be considered bad manners. The girl blocked the attacks with her blades and then spun the weapons, dealing twice as many attacks. Her fight looked effective and impressive. Hyun-sung thought that maybe he should take dual swords too. Thanatos' nightmare worked on all weapons, so it was generally possible. But suddenly the guy realized that he shouldn't change his already familiar fighting style so abruptly. At this time, Rin finally caught up with them. She couldn't believe that the most interesting part was already over. Ye-yoon told them that Hyun-sung killed 3 people, while she only killed 1. The guy suggested that they move on. The girls watched again as their team member ran forward. They realized that Hyun-sung seemed to be angry. Only a few heads of the best guilds know this. Hero is the only guild with 7 members that received its own territory. Castle Ishtain is a guild of heroes. Sunny missed Rin very much. Kaiser was on a hitman's job. Uncle Tan Guri's wife was pregnant. Rin was helping her younger sister on her second account. And I and Stu were off on specialization missions they'd always been putting off. Sunny was thinking that maybe she should start a second account too. Suddenly she saw that someone had come to them. It was Hyuna. She asked if Sunny was resting now. The girl rushed to hug Hyuna. She was very happy to see her. Hyuna asked if she had missed anything. Hyuna was in the hospital, and because her brother quit and started playing Idea, she has to be careful so that he doesn't find out about it. The girls sat down at the table to have a snack. Sunny asked why her brother decided to quit. As Hyuna understood, he decided to quit after he got some good specialty at the first level. Sunny was surprised because her friend's brother worked at S Electronics. That's why Hyuna tried to find out how high her brother's rank was so she could leave. Judging by everything, he is clearly no less than heroic. It's quite logical, since he did this, he probably got at least a heroic rank. This means that her brother can join them too. Sunny was interested in how he plays, even though they don't have such a condition for acceptance into the guild. But his brother might be uncomfortable, because everyone there is so extraordinary. She asked if Hyuna thought so. Rin's sister seemed to be a pretty good player too. Hyuna replied that brother had achieved hero rank at level 1, and that he had said that he had risen to level 30 in a day. Sunny's jaw dropped. Even though her brother likes to fool around, he usually doesn't lie about things like that, and his reaction didn't seem like he wanted to lie. Sunny was stunned. She couldn't believe that he was really pumping that fast. It is simply impossible for a high-ranking character to reach level 30 in a day without a fierce playing skill. This, of course, was hard to believe. But if that's true, then Hyuna's brother might be even better at acting than Rin herself. Hyuna started to brush it off, saying that it was nothing special, but Sunny insisted that even Rin wasn't capable of something like that. Sunny remembered that the girl was currently on the second account with her sister and suggested asking. Hyuna supported the idea. Sunny called her sister Rin. The girl answered and said that she would call back later. In the call, you could hear that she was asking someone to wait for her. Sunny was upset because the girl was very busy. Hyuna suggested asking next time. Hyuna suggested to Sunny that they go hunting together now. Ye-eun and Rin rushed to run after Hyun-sung. The long-term stress did them good, and their agility was increased by 1. Hyun-sung was definitely dissatisfied. Rin understood that it seemed that recruiting the guy would not work. Hyun-sung ran without looking where he was going. There were a large number of werewolves in the cave. There were 11 of them here. Hyun-sung intends to kill them all. The werewolves noticed the guy. They rushed to run towards him. Hyun-sung threw his blade forward in advance. He crashed into the leg of one of the werewolves. While they stood there in confusion, Hyun-sung used volley. Several bullets appeared and were aimed at the opponents. They all pierced the monster's skin. This made them even more angry. That was a great shot. Hyun-sung ran even closer and was ready to take out his blade. The guy ran and dodged the monsters. He didn't care about those werewolves who already had charges. He just needed to hit everyone else with his blows. The werewolves couldn't understand how a pathetic human dared to run away from them. The fast monsters had already managed to surround him. Hyun-sung used Thanatos Nocturne. Cannonballs appeared above their heads. The monsters were paralyzed. At that moment, Hyun-sung swung his sword and destroyed 11 werewolves. The guy gained a lot of experience. His level was increased. Hyun-sung didn't like that he had leveled up so little. Did he really need 10 times more experience instead of 5? After all, he had killed 11 of them, and with just 1 hit. At this time, the girls finally caught up with him. They were very short of breath. It seems Hyun-sung went a bit overboard. The guy suggested that they take a little break, and they, of course, agreed. Hyun-sung apologized to them. Apparently, he was only thinking about himself. The girls fell to the ground. They needed to rest because it looked like elite monsters would be coming soon. They didn't care what they looked like. If they didn't lie down to rest now, they wouldn't last any longer. They were doing very well, but Rin looked up and saw something. At this time, Hyun Sung was practicing his skills. Now it became clear why he was so strong. And if this was the price of strength, it was better to give up right away. For some reason, Ye-eun felt ashamed, and Rin decided to simply turn away. Rin was sure that he wanted to hint to them that they were resting too long. Hyun Sung noticed that after such movements, the blow becomes even stronger. He also realized that since this is a game, you can move against the laws of physics, breaking your body wherever you can. But suddenly a notification came that he was losing HP due to movements that overstrained his body. The guy didn't know that even such a thing could happen here, so it was so difficult for his body. While the girls are resting, he can try it all out again. The girls got up and said that they had rested and could continue hunting, but the guy told them not to hurry and that they could continue to rest. Yewon said that everything was fine, and the sooner they cleared the dungeon, the sooner they could take a good breath. After all, he was the one who was urging them on with his training, and if the girls agreed to take a break, the guy would probably start swinging his sword again. Hyun Sung promised that he would not run away from them so abruptly again. The guy actually slowed down his speed and the girls kept up with him. Suddenly, the girls were very surprised. Hyun Sung was swinging his sword. I think he was angry that they were slow. Now even Ye-eun was like a dandelion to Rin. Ye-eun thought that maybe she was the same way when she and her sister were slow, and she probably should apologize to her for this. But Hyun Sung was only thinking that this way the blow would go through even faster. The werewolf howled loudly like a real wolf. He was definitely different from the others, as if he had just gotten out of the gym. And along with him, there are also a dozen ordinary monsters. It will be difficult for Hyun Sung to kill them all by himself. He's been taking on almost all the monsters today, and he thinks it's time to give these two a chance to have some fun. That's probably why the girls haven't been looking so great lately. Hyun Sung said that he would take care of the elite monsters and leave the rest to them. All this time, the sisters did nothing but run after him and were already very tired. Rin wanted to recruit the boy into their guild, so they couldn't afford to lose face. The team rushed to attack. The elite werewolf screamed that this guy was a complete fool. The monster was ready to mercilessly attack Hyun Sung with its long claws. The werewolf didn't care at all, and baring his teeth, he wanted to inflict numerous wounds. But Hyun Sung dodged and stabbed the werewolf's shoulder with the tip of his sword. The monster was not prepared for such a turn of events. At this moment, Hyun Sung used volley. The bullet flew straight into the enemy's eye. The monster screamed in pain and said that he would kill him. The guy laughed, because as if at least one of them did not want to kill him, the elite werewolf rushed to attack. At that moment, Hyun Sung released a small blade, but, surprisingly, the werewolf defended himself, fending it off with his claws. The monster thought that victory was his, but in a second, Hyun Sung seemed to teleport behind him. The guy dealt a crushing blow. The werewolf swore that he would tear this man apart. Hyun Sung activated Thanatos Nocturne. A core appeared above the werewolf's head, destroying his body. The enemy werewolf was destroyed by Thanatos' Nocturne skill, so Hyun Sung will not be able to receive DP. But in any case, his level was raised. It was easier than Hyun Sung expected. In the fight, Ye-eun focused on speed. The longer the guy watched her, the cooler she looked. Rina acts much more precisely and carefully. These sisters are both very good, but the guy didn't understand why the girl sometimes got confused in her movements. It looked unnatural. Rin would play better if she stopped doing that. The girl was not used to playing for such a weak character. If she wants to recruit the guy into the Guild of Heroes, she must show her skills. Finally, their fight was over. Ye-eun hoped that they would take a break now. Rin said that they had defeated an elite monster along with a bunch of others. So since they were playing without medicine, they needed to take a break. Hyun Sung asked if they really wanted to take a break. The girls were very surprised by this question, but Hyun Sung said that maybe they really should take a breather too. Usually on such long raids, people take more rest. But Hyun Sung was simply incredible in both good and bad ways. The sisters saw that the guy sat down with them. Finally, they could relax properly. Hyun Sung realized that he too needed to take a little break. The narcolepsy skill suddenly activated. Before being forced out of the game, his character will remain in the game even if he leaves the capsule. Due to Thanatos' narcolepsy skill, he fell asleep during a group raid. The guy apologized to the girls, but there was nothing he could do about it. Apparently, it was a punishment for his greed for experience. Hyun Sung came out of the capsule upset. Anyway, the sleepwalking AI has started to work, so it won't be a burden to those two, but it will be hard to find another group. It might be better for Hyun Sung to hunt alone. At this time, Rin noticed something was wrong. She saw that Hyun Sung had fallen asleep. After several battles, it's no wonder he fell asleep. Is he really just an ordinary person? But to their surprise, Hyun-sung stood up. Ye-yoon was very surprised. It didn't even take a minute, not even 30 seconds, before they sat down. Thanatos' sleepwalking skill has been activated during a group raid and will not be deactivated until the dungeon is cleared. Hyun-sung stood up and walked in the other direction. The boy rushed forward to run, and the sisters did not understand what was happening. But they had no choice and ran after him. Having run a little further, the girls saw something unusual. Hyun-sung ran so far and was even able to kill all the monsters on his way, because there were things lying on the road that the guy didn't pick up. The girls thought that the guy's inventory was probably just full, and decided to take things for him. Yeun noticed that there were even rare things here. It seems like Hyun-sung has even killed elite monsters, but even if he ran out of space, how could he not pick up such rare items? Rin suggested that they catch up with him first. If he ran too far, it would take them a long time to catch up. 10 in-game hours have passed and 25 have passed since entering the dungeon. Too long in-game sessions are harmful to health and psyche. The sisters were already very tired and wanted to rest as soon as possible. Woo-rin continued to level up, which meant Hyun-sung was still hunting. Of course, the girl understood that she needed to level up as quickly as possible. But this was too much even for her. Suddenly, Yeun saw something and told her sister to look. In front of them was the gate to the boss room, where Hyun-sung was standing. They had gotten here in about a day, although it usually took 2 or 3 real days to get here. Their team was setting a simply incredible record. Rin felt like something was wrong here. She called Hyun-sung and apologized for keeping him waiting. The guy didn't react at all. The girl thought that since he didn't answer, he was very angry, but they picked up all the things that Hyun-sung had left behind. All participants were present. Once they entered the boss room, their character would not be able to leave the game or use the teleport whistle until they defeated the boss. The sisters were surprised when they saw a message about the passage to the boss's room. The girls wanted to at least take a break, but the group's leader, Hyun-sung, opened the door to the room. The soulless werewolf Cerbis has awakened. For a long time, no players entered the dungeon that could pass it, so Cerbis's power had time to increase. The chance of rare items dropping and the amount of experience gained from killing the soulless werewolf Cerbis had been doubled. Rin didn't understand who cared about experience now if they were going to be killed anyway. The gates in the room opened, and the sisters immediately realized that they were finished. Ye-yoon and Rin stood frozen in horror as they waited. In the real world, Hyun-sung noticed that narcolepsy first activated during a boss fight and now during a group raid. And what's more important is that after completing the dungeon, he'll most likely just fall asleep, and it's unlikely that the guy will meet these girls again. And finding another group in that city won't be that easy. But since there was nothing to be done, Hyun-sung was going to look for a place to hunt alone. His character seemed to have already reached level 46. Then it was worth looking for monsters from 90 or 100. Suddenly, the guy received a call from his friend Jae-hwan. Hyun-sung picked up the phone and asked why his friend sounded so tired. It had been 2 days since Jae-hwan had slept. Jae-hwan tried to maintain energy with energy drinks. Hyun-sung said that it was not that urgent and it was better to rest from time to time. But Jae-hwan said not to worry because he wanted to do it himself. The guy asked if Hyun-sung remembered the moment he killed the boss. From the fragment he sent, the only memorable thing he had was a fight with a mini-boss, the soul of an orc sorcerer. But can he even be considered a boss? Hyun-sung asked if he meant the soul of the orc sorcerer, but Jae-hwan was talking about the maddened Karak. Apparently, Hyun-sung didn't even look at the recording he sent for processing. Jae-hwan asked if he didn't remember killing the maddened Karak. The guy was saying that his style of play before the fight with him was completely different from how Hyun-sung fought Karak. So Jae-hwan wanted to develop this concept a little. Hyun-sung was very surprised and asked what the difference was. Jae-hwan already thought that his friend had some kind of problems with his head. The skills were on the same level, but the movements looked much more thoughtful and precise. Hyun-sung usually runs at full speed, forcing his opponents to expose their weak points. But in the battle with Karak, Hyun-sung acted methodically and calmly. It was as if he was constantly wearing down the enemy, constantly putting pressure on the boss with a hail of blows, not giving him time to catch his breath. Jae-hwan compared it to the fighting style of knights. Hyun-sung found it hard to believe. He didn't think he could fight like that. Jae-hwan asked if his friend had any mental health issues, such as bipolar disorder. He thought so because Hyun-sung played differently, and he didn't remember any of it. But that wasn't the case. Hyun-sung said that in the boss battle, because of one skill, the AI fought instead of him. Jae-hwan was very surprised. It became clear to him now what abilities those who have a divine rank receive. But his friend said that it was not so cool, because this thing causes a lot of problems. The guy breathed a sigh of relief because his friend was healthy and did not suffer from any disorders. Hyun-sung was curious and asked to send that excerpt by email. Jae-hwan asked if the AI tries to control the character at about the same level, and he replied that it does. The guy came up with an interesting idea. The gist of it was that when Hyun-sung plays the character, the mask will be black, and when the AI plays, the mask will be white. It would also be nice to come up with some kind of nickname that would match the image. Hyun-sung said he would think about it. Jae-hwan told him to write to him when he chose a nickname, and also said that he had already sent a fragment. Hyun-sung felt a little embarrassed watching his own video. The guy pressed play. Hyun-sung's jaw dropped when he saw him. The guy didn't understand why his mask was white, although he seemed to have put on a black one. Jae-hwan must have taken care of this since he was constantly talking about some kind of concept. And everything is just like he said. The styles are completely different from him. Hyun-sung still needs to learn from artificial intelligence. Of course, he learned a lot during today's hunt too. But there was much more useful knowledge in this video. He liked it more and more. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, the boss growled that the players had risked coming here themselves. The sisters gritted their teeth in fear, but Hyun-sung didn't care. Service said their bravery was quite commendable. He shouted that they were just impudent little people. They should not think that along with his soul, Service also lost his former power. The girls understood that the boss was too fast, and it was too dangerous to be here. Service rushed to attack, but Hyun-sun blocked the blow, but the boss still threw the guy aside. Seeing this, the sisters were very scared, but they couldn't relax. Hyun-sung used volley, and bullets flew out from behind Rin and Ye-yoon. Several of them hit Service's shoulder. Was Hyun-sung mocking the boss? This attack was too weak. Service was ready to tear the guy to pieces first. Suddenly, a beam of light flew very quickly past the girls. Hyun-sung attacked and deftly dodged counterattacks. Jumping up from behind, Hyun-sung delivered a critical hit. Service became enraged and turned around to attack with his sharp claws. But the guy quickly reacted and knocked his paws off. At this moment, the boss wanted to launch the next attack. Hyun-sung jumped off Service's shoulder and landed on the other side. Rin thought the boy had pushed off the boss's shoulder to change the trajectory of his attack and jump back. Service did not hesitate and rushed to attack again, but Hyun-sun stood still. But a moment later, the guy dealt a crushing blow and critical damage. After a crushing blow, the soulless werewolf Service will be stunned for 10 seconds. Hyun-sung delivered another powerful blow to the chest, and Thanatos' nightmare skill was activated. The soulless werewolf Service was subjected to the effects of the nightmare and was stunned by hallucinations and pain for 5 seconds. Hyun-sung immediately delivered the finishing blow with his sword. Service fell to his knees and screamed, "How dare he?" For even 1,000 deaths would not satisfy his rage. But suddenly, Service quickly launched a new attack, trying to approach from a different side. But he couldn't do it, because Hyun-sun managed to notice and block it. The boss realized that it seemed like black lightning was the guy's skill, and he wouldn't be able to use it for some time. Suddenly, several bullets flew into Service's body. Before that dark flash, the guy had also used this distraction attack. Service was sure that such a strong man would not have dealt such a weak blow without a good reason. Service stood and did not understand what was happening. Suddenly he realized that the terrifying black lightning had not appeared. Hyun-sun launched the next blow, but the monster blocked it with its claws. The werewolf was sure that if the guy couldn't hit him, the black lightning would appear again, and he intended to focus on defense. Hyun-sung swung his sword very quickly. Service was faster than Hyun-sun, but because of that lightning, he couldn't act rashly. The sword still left one cut on the werewolf's hand. He couldn't believe that the guy wouldn't use the skill even after so many attacks. Suddenly, cannonballs appeared above the boss's head, and Hyun-sung delivered a crushing blow. The soulless werewolf Service will be stunned for 10 seconds. The monster will fall to its knees. At that moment, he realized that he had lost this battle. Hyun-sung struck and blood sprayed all around. However, Service was not ready to give up so easily. The werewolf fell to his knees and howled loudly. The soulless werewolf Service became enraged. With every second, the monster became stronger. The second phase of the boss battle has now begun. Service, enraged, became even bigger and stronger. Despite everything, he rushed to tear and throw everything around. The sisters continued to watch their fight. Ye-yoon noticed that the boss was now much bigger and stronger, but his speed had noticeably slowed down. Rin said that all this played into Hyun-sung's hands. If they were in his place, they still wouldn't have time to dodge the blows. Hyun Sung wasn't ready to give up either. A bunch of sharp swords flew straight at the werewolf, but they all quickly broke due to Service's claws. The werewolf wanted to attack, but Hyun Sung jumped back, doing a somersault in the air, and landed. Rin, watching all this, was delighted. Before Service strikes, Hyun Sung does not dodge, but runs forward. He then pushes off the boss's shoulder, using his size to gain distance. Service was angry that he missed and the guy got away. Hyun Sung snapped his fingers. The guy started running again to attack, but the werewolf didn't understand what was happening. Hyun Sung launched a distraction attack, but without the black lightning, couldn't he use it because of the distance between them? Service realized that the time had come and began to run away. The sisters were very surprised by Hyun Sung's speed. Rin was almost certain it was bait. He didn't originally intend to use this skill, following a certain strategy. Before the black lightning, he always used black bullets, playing on Service's emotions. But this means that black lightning is a very strong skill, because it made the boss run away from Hyun Sung. As expected from the guy, it's incredible, but something about his fighting style is different and he acts calculatedly. The movements are the same, and he used the enemy's emotions before, but the execution process is different. Seeing Hyun Sung able to perform in two different styles is truly amazing. Rin herself would not want to encounter any of his styles. The girl was simply obliged to recruit the guy into their guild of heroes. It may not be by much, but Service is faster than Hyun Sung. The werewolf was in anticipation of what the guy would do now. Suddenly, Hyun Sung stopped, and Service was confused. At that moment, the boy extended his hand and used Death's Sabbat. The Death Sabbat has consumed the mind of the soulless werewolf Service into the illusion of death. Service realized that he could not move. 100 DP were spent, and the soulless werewolf falls asleep for 1 minute. Damage to sleeping enemies has been doubled. Hyun Sung released the Reaper's chains. They headed towards the immobilized boss. His entire body was pierced by a dark aura. Service screamed loudly in pain. He could not believe that this was his end. Finally, the soulless werewolf Service was destroyed. Hyun Seong cleared the dungeon and received double experience for completing it. As a reward, the guy gets the best items from the boss's treasury. The girls were delighted with how many items dropped. Suddenly, a notification appeared that they had destroyed the awakened monsters and the experience bonus would no longer apply. Hyun Sung has reached level 50. He activated the exclusive quest of the Descendant of Thanatos specialization. After this, the guy immediately went to bed. The sisters looked at him with affection. It seems the guy was so tired that he fell asleep right away. They just ran after him all the time and were already tired, and Hyun Sung single-handedly defeated the boss. The girls decided that they should keep an eye on the awards. Ye Yoon suggested moving Hyun Sung to the room, but Rin thought that was too much. Inferno Headquarters, User Management Department. Jo Min-woo asked one of the workers what level Hyun Sung's user was at, and the man replied that he was already level 53. Jo Min-woo pressed the button on his phone with displeasure. The man picked up the phone and said that he was the head of the User Management Department. He reported that the user Hyun Sung had reached level 52. The man on the phone said that they hadn't finished cooking yet, but it seemed they had no choice. And he asked how things were going with the Empire. Jo Min-woo replied that everything was quiet for now, but a reconnaissance team would be sent out soon. But it can't be that the Emperor Iron-Blooded Monarch is sitting peacefully. The department head agreed with him. He also asked what user Hyun Seong is doing and whether he has accepted the class quest yet. Jo Min-woo explained that Hyun Sung is currently under the effects of narcolepsy and will sleep for another 7 hours of real time before waking up. That's equivalent to 35 hours of in-game time, and that's problematic. When user Hyun Seong unlocked his class quest, a huge castle was built in Venia, one of the cities in the Empire. Venia is a city surrounded by water. It was inspired by Venice. Venia is very popular among users, all thanks to its beautiful views and level 100 monsters. There was no way the iron-blooded monarch Karen would neglect the new castle. He should at least have the local lord assemble a scouting party and send them to the castle. But the problem wasn't him. It was Hyun Sung. This user had to get there first because if the scouts got to the castle before him, they would be in trouble. The head of the development department said that for now, we just need to observe, and if something unusual happens, then contact him immediately. Due to narcolepsy, user Hyun Sung will not wake up anytime soon. But looking at the situation in the Empire, Iron-Blooded Monarch Karen is extremely unpredictable. Because of his judgments, countless users have been sentenced to 100 years in the dungeon. It would be a great relief to know that the monarch was not interested in the castle and simply had some lord send his scouting party, after which Hyun Seong should hurry and ideally get to the castle before the scouts. If something goes wrong, something terrible will happen. Jo Min-woo opened the information magazine to find out who the mayor of Vienna is. Dorgnum is one of the most influential merchants in the empire. He is very selfish and greedy. There should be no problems with someone like him. He would rather send regular users than personal bodyguards or knights. If the reconnaissance team was made up of users instead of NPS, Hyun Sung would likely outpace them. It will take some time to assemble a squad of users, and the MER will also need to settle many other issues. But that's only if Karan assigns the reconnaissance to the Mir of Vania. If he takes on this matter personally, his intervention will not only affect Hyun Seong, but may also awaken the monster locked in the castle. Wyvern Snake. Aqualior. Long ago, this demonic abomination was imprisoned in a castle by a disciple of Thanatos, and now wyverns are the most dangerous monsters in the game. It would be great if the iron-blooded monarch could deal with the wyvern snake himself, but what if he can't help? In this case, everything will end badly. The Empire will plunge into chaos because of one monster that is beyond the power of any single player. They had no choice but to help Hyun Sung a little. If the snake wyvern Aqualior awakened, the Korean server support would be flooded with complaints. Jo Min-woo can't let this happen. Suddenly, an idea came to the man's mind. Since Hyun Seong has already reached level 50, this woman will also receive a quest. This user is also related to Thanatos, and although her rank is certainly not divine but legendary, this is also not bad. The detailed description of the quests differs, but the essence is the same. Go to the palace where Aqualior is imprisoned. Jo Min-woo realized that their joint efforts would help prevent the awakening of this evil spirit. This man's name cannot be mentioned in any discussion about who is the most powerful person on the continent, and it is no exaggeration to say that he is in fact the most powerful person on the entire continent. This is iron-blooded monarch Sharon. One man came to the monarch. He reported that some suspicious structure had appeared in the eastern part of Venice. The man was very afraid, because if he made even one mistake in front of the monarch, it would not be limited to cutting off his head. Exactly 3 settlements would be destroyed, so he needed to concentrate. The monarch could not imagine that among his vassals there was such a spineless person. He asked how this applied to him. The man was shaking all over and asked again. Iron-blooded monarch Karen asked him how this applied to him. The man began to tremble even more and apologize. He said that he would immediately instruct the mayor of Venice to deal with this issue. Karen waved his hand and said that he was free. The man thanked the monarch for sparing his life. At this time, the office workers were rejoicing at this event. Karen watched as the man walked away. Iron-blooded monarch Karen did not understand why all his subjects feared him, because he had never been cruel to the citizens of the empire. He was taught that an emperor must always be a reasonable, worthy ruler, which he was. He did not spare his enemies and did not pity prisoners. Thanks to this, he emerged victorious from any war. He made his empire the most influential on the continent, but for some reason his subordinates only tremble with fear. What should he do if it turns out that the guards protecting him also live in fear? Karen considered them pathetic fools. This palace is full of those who fear the monarch, and those who are too simple even to be afraid. It would be nice to find at least one who could amuse Karen. There are many rude people among the so-called travelers, but no funny ones among them. If Monarch Karen could, he would have fled the palace long ago and gone in search of adventure. But if he did so, there would be a stir. He is sure that the Empire will come looking for him, and he would not like that. But it would be nice to go for a walk from time to time. He remembered that he was told about a strange structure that had appeared in Vienna. Although he was curious, he was not eager to go on a journey. It will be boring to walk around the area with monsters that are only level 100. Suddenly, Karen had an idea. We need to organize an event of national scale, one in which everyone, be it a traveler or a craftsman, can take part. For example, a fighting tournament could be like this. At least it would be fun. The monarch hoped that something interesting would happen there. It was a shame that he would not be able to take part in it, but it could also be interesting to watch. If a citizen of the empire wins, the monarch will allow him to serve, and will also allow him to take one thing from the treasury of his choice. At this time, one of the servants ran after the monarch, but the man said to come later. With travelers, everything is much more complicated, since they are all greedy, of course, not all of them, but exceptions are extremely rare. Perhaps the land allotment is too generous. Then anything from the treasury. The winner will also be able to make a wish. The winner must decide for himself what he is entitled to as a reward. If the greedy one wins, the monarch will give him something ordinary. But if the winner asks for something out of the ordinary, it will be very interesting. The Empire Fighters competition on the Korean server is a major event and brings together all users who want to make a name for themselves. The competition was about to begin, and all this commotion was due to just one NPS. Hyun Sung sat at the computer and was bored. The analysis of the battle with Karak is complete, and only his fighting style has changed. The guy leaned back in his chair and thought about how narcolepsy had its downsides. Suddenly, Hyun Sung saw an interesting advertisement. These were kendo lessons. Come to think of it, IDEA has been advertising swordsmanship courses more often lately. When the VR industry became widespread enough, all the sports clubs and judo schools started to appear here and there in advertisements on websites. It was called IDEA syndrome. It turns out that physical condition affects the avatar's capabilities in IDEA. This was a great opportunity. Hyun Sung arrived at one of the shopping malls. He signed up for a gym membership, and now he was thinking about which kendo school to choose. He saw an advertisement for an academy of practical martial arts. The name sounded good, and the location was right across from his gym, so he could warm up and go straight to training. Hyun Sung walked up to one of the doors. It was here. The guy rang the bell and asked if anyone was there. He froze in anticipation. A man appeared from behind a small crack and asked who had come to see him. Hyun Sung saw something and was surprised. Muscles like a man's couldn't be built in a gym. It was a fighter's body, achieved through hard training. Although it looks dilapidated from the outside, the guy chose a suitable place for training. Hyun Sung told the man that he came here to learn how to fight. The man said that the guy had good instincts and invited him in. Inside the room was absolutely everything, starting from blunt weapons to aluminum swords and many other types of weapons that can be used in the game. The ceilings were high so that one could wield a spear or sword inside without any restrictions. The man asked the boy if he had finished looking around, and he replied that he liked it here. The owner asked why the guy was standing there and not taking off his clothes. Hyun Sung didn't come here to watch, so he'd like to start with a little fight. The man said that he could take whatever he liked or fight with his fists. Hyun Sung took the sword, the one similar to the one he had in IDEA. He wanted to warm up a little first. The man was a little surprised when he saw that the boy preferred swords. Hyun Sung had practiced kendo as a child. It is impossible to make such precise movements, even with experience in kendo. The man noticed that the guy had natural talent, and it was clear that he was used to putting in the work. After a couple of minutes, Hyun Sung was ready. Then we could begin. Hyun Sung went on the attack first. The man thrust his spear forward. At first, the guy was able to knock it aside with his sword. The man was surprised that the boy withstood the blow. If he had been a beginner, his force would have been enough to knock the sword away. Moreover, after the attack, he did not retreat and continued the onslaught. And this was the right decision, considering that a fight with a sword against a spearman has its own specifics. Hyun Sung received a blow to the leg with the blunt end of the sword. Because of this, the guy fell to the side. He saw that there was a sharp spear tip in front of his face. Hyun Sung managed to dodge it somehow. The guy stuck the sword between the master's legs. He bought himself time to get up. Hyun Sung thought that his break had already dragged on. He hadn't moved much and was already exhausted. The master thought that the guy's blows were accurate, but they were no worse in the heat of battle. He had finally found himself a worthy student. They could end there. The man said that, other than his stamina, Hyun Sung's swordsmanship had no flaws, and asked if the boy would like to master any other weapon besides the sword. The guy agreed, and since he accepted the role of Hyde, he had to live up to it. As the master saw, the guy fights with a one-handed sword, but he would like to hold a weapon in his left hand. The master heard that each class in IDEA has a separate type of martial arts. The man asked if he would regret learning in vain, but Hyun Sung didn't care. The master also asked about his fighting style. Hyun Sung replied that his style was that of a mad dog, and the master simply remained silent in response. After a few moments, he laughed out loud and asked if he really wanted to jump on his opponents. The master approached the weapon stand and asked about the dagger. He picked out a couple because he thought they would work. One was long, and the other was a little smaller. Now it was necessary to watch the master carefully. His main attack is a blow with a long sword, and when opening up, you protect the weak spot with a dagger. The master also asked the boy if he thought it would be quite useful to learn how to throw a sword. Hyun Sung thought about the combination of a long sword and a dagger. The boy replied that it was not bad. Besides, the dagger was much lighter than the long sword, so he would be able to handle it well while attacking with the sword. Of course, it all depended on the fighter's skills, but he should have no problem with it. The master asked the guy when he wanted to start training, and he replied, right now. Rin fought a pack of midnight wolves on her main account. She confronted the king of wolves himself. The girl rushed from her place and began to attack. She struck at his neck with a sharp sword. The girl dealt with the attacks quickly and deftly. Rin defeated the king of the midnight wolf pack. Things didn't turn out as she expected. She was too arrogant. She wondered if she would ever meet Hyun Seong again. Recruiting him into the guild would be nice, but she had to sort out her things first. After defeating the boss as a team, the girls didn't know what to do with Hyun Sung's body. At first, they waited a long time for the guy to wake up. Soon, Ye-eun's patience ran out. The girl ran up to the guy and started shaking him, screaming and asking if it was time for him to wake up. But Hyun Sung didn't care at all. After that, they received a notification. Squad member Hyun Seong will be automatically logged out due to being in a sleep state for too long. The next time he connects to the game, he will be teleported to the nearest settlement. After that, the guy disappeared from their hands. Ye-eun agreed to take care of things. They had a slight gap in level, so they would probably run into each other sooner or later. Rin started running, thinking that she needed to find Hyun Sung. A skilled player like him would definitely make a splash on MeTube if his fight video was uploaded. If Rin stumbled upon a video of Hyun Sung, she would know roughly where he was. The next time they meet, the girl is obliged to recruit him into the guild. But if she wants him in her guild, she herself needs to become stronger, because she is the leader. Behind her, the rest of the participants shouted what they wanted with her. Rin apologized and said that she couldn't wait for them. Sunny and Hyuna tried to catch up with the girl. Hyuna asked what was going on with Rin's little sister, but Sunny was unable to speak. Hyun Sung sat on the bed, and everything hurt. He sat down at the computer to surf the internet before training. He received a notification and the guy opened it. A letter arrived saying that someone was gathering a squad to explore that strange castle in Vienna. Hyun Sung looked there yesterday while looking for places to hunt monsters. The city is certainly nice, but the guy didn't really look at it. There are too many tourists there. Everything has already been explored. He remembered it only because it was really beautiful there. A new message has arrived. A user with the nickname Typical Loser said that there is a villainous guild in Venice, but he could not remember the name. The superhuman guild bribed the mayor, so they suddenly became the main reconnaissance squad. This guild is already causing a lot of trouble because of their friendship with the mayor, and now they are in cahoots. Hyun Sung found all these statements quite toxic, but thank God it didn't concern him. He needed to go meet her while he had time. The guy finally returned home, but no one was there. Hours of beatings from the trainer for training purposes pay off, and Hyun Sung's movements improve. Thanks to the training, the boy quickly mastered new skills, and one day he will be able to fight back against the trainer. Hyun Sung couldn't wait to try them out in the game, so he sat down in the capsule. The guy joined the game and found himself in the central square of the village of Riha. He immediately received a lot of notifications, as expected. His stats have increased significantly during his sleep. Looking around, one could tell that this place was noisier than ever. Suddenly, Hyun Sung noticed one guy who was buying up all the junk. If you think about it, selling junk to the user should be more profitable than handing it over to the store. Hyun Sung decided to come closer and take a look. He called out to the guy, saying that he wouldn't mind selling a few things. The guy offered to buy the entire inventory for 32,000 gold, which is about 3 million won in real currency, which is twice as expensive as in the store. The operation was successfully completed. Hyun Sung left and wished the guy good luck. Now you can teleport from here, and you will have to go to the nearest store for a whistle, but before that, you should check the messages. Suddenly, the guy saw something. Hyun Seong saw a message about activating an exclusive quest for the specialization. He knew that high-level players could complete a class-exclusive storyline, but he didn't think he would unlock it so quickly. It was an exclusive quest specially for a God-ranked player. Hyun Sung opened the quest window. It was very different in its special design. It was necessary to find the disciple of Thanatos. The task had a rank of S+. At this stage, only one lead has been opened. The castle must be explored, and traces of Thanatos' apprentice found in Aquilior's nest. All other traces were revealed on subsequent levels. Hyun Sung realized that all those articles and discussions on the internet were related to his assignments. What will happen if the reconnaissance team finds the trail faster than Hyun Seong? In that case, the guy will fall back to the first level again. Hyun Sung was very scared and started to panic about the fact that he would really lose 52 levels. He didn't understand how he made sense of all this. But if he succeeds, He will be able to choose the abilities of Divine Authority and Divine Relic. These names sounded unusual, and they were probably something. Without a moment's hesitation, Hyun-sung set off for Vienna. The guy arrived at the central square of Venia. Compared to the village of Reha, this place was a hive of activity, as there were even more players here. Hyun-seong saw that the reconnaissance squad had not yet headed towards the castle. He needed to go urgently. The players acted arrogantly when they saw Hyun-sung. These guys looked great, and you can't take that away from them. It was no wonder that everyone was looking at Hyun-sung so askance. There was a chance that he would have to face a developed squad, and it would not be superfluous to get armor. Unlike fighting monsters in a battle with several players at the same time, armor is simply necessary. The guy left the store already wearing new clothes. He spent 1,200,000 won on a simple leather armor. Since the guy earns money through the game, the investment was necessary. Hyun-seong had finished with the equipment, and now it was time to urgently run to the castle. The castle was further away than he had expected based on the quest description. He was told that its outline would be visible on the horizon after 3 in-game days of riding on horseback. Since Hyun-seong didn't have a horse, the journey would take even longer, but he still had a speed advantage over the reconnaissance squad because he was moving alone. The boy thought about the abilities he could gain by completing this quest. Residence of Mayor Dorgnome. The mayor sprawled on the sofa. He asked one man how things were going in the reconnaissance detachment. Reiner, the head of the Superhuman Guild, replied that everything was going just fine thanks to the mayor. The mayor laughed at the guy's great observation skills, and he immediately saw who he should be friends with. In fact, the man was annoyed by the mayor, but he had to please him. It's worth it for the sake of such a benefit. They screwed high-level players and NPCs, but it was all thanks to his connivance. It's a shame that one plan failed because of leveled players. Reiner hated rankers. Dorgnome entrusted the boy with the order of the Emperor himself, so he had to try to finish gathering the squad as quickly as possible. Reiner replied that they would have a squad ready to invade the castle very soon, and that they would set out today. Dorgnome held out a small, sparkling object. Reiner knelt down and thanked. This was the iron-blooded monarch Karen's mark. This mark symbolizes the authority of the commander of the Scout Knights. With this thing in hand, the man would finally teach a lesson to all the high-level players who had been bullying him and extorting money from him. Dorgnome had high hopes for Reiner, and he had better not disappoint him and the Emperor. Reiner replied that the mayor could count on him, but in his mind he was thinking that Dorgnome was a fat bastard. If the guy pulled it off, he'd probably make a name for himself, but if he failed, he'd probably get pushed under a train or something. The man said he needed to go if the mayor allowed it. Reiner walked down the steps. Although it is difficult for him now, he will not have to endure humiliation for long. If as a result of this event, Dorgnome receives a noble title, he will leave the post of mayor, and this place will most likely go to Reiner. It will take the reconnaissance squad 10 days to reach the castle. They must leave today. If the invasion of the castle goes according to plan, then Reiner will get everything he dreamed of. Meanwhile, on the eastern square of Vienna, there was a whole line of people waiting to apply to join the reconnaissance squad. Zdol, the manager of the Superhuman Guild, was accepting applications, and when the next candidate came up, he asked what his level was. The player replied that he was level 95. Zdol gave the guy a task. The manager looked at all these people and thought how stupid they all were. It would be better to entrust this matter to knights or guards, but they hire players because it is cheaper. But none of the players not approved by their guild will get into the squad, and the territory near the castle will be explored by others for them. Zdol was also annoyed by his boss. Why assign him to hang around here while he could be hunting? He thought it would be better to give this stupid task to another guild. They would get more benefit by spending this time exploring dungeons. Zdol didn't understand who they were trying to outdo. Suddenly, an incredibly beautiful girl approached him. In idea, it is impossible to change more than 10% of your real appearance. This means that this girl is almost as beautiful in real life. Zdol asked to state her class and level, as well as her name. The girl didn't understand why the manager needed her name since he only asked the guy in front of her his level, but she would have to be patient. She introduced herself as Han So-ah, a level 110 sorceress. Zdol told her that her name was incredibly beautiful, and he would make sure that Han So-ah got a good position in the squad. The sorceress could barely stand him and left, and the guy admired her beauty. She needed to get to the castle urgently. She shouldn't waste her emotions on a piece of trash like the manager. Zdol was thinking about how he needed to place the girl closer to him. The guy shouted for the next one to come to the counter. He was a little surprised when he saw the next player. Hyun-sung approached the counter. Zdal was curious about the mask on the guy's face and asked him his level. He replied that he was 53. Zdal found Hyun-sung's tone to be impudent, and in a normal situation the boy would have killed him. But this was an important job. The manager gave the task and told me to get lost. Hyun-sung left, and Zdal, looking at him, thought that he was an arrogant bastard, because he didn't even say thank you. The manager would come for his soul as soon as the reconnaissance squad moved towards the castle. If Hyun-seong hadn't gotten lost, he would have had to rely on the reconnaissance team. The guy ran in the wrong direction for 30 minutes without even looking at the map because he was thinking about power and the relic. If he had known how things would turn out, he would have immediately signed up for the reconnaissance squad and not wasted his time. Hyun-sung had no one to blame but himself. At this time, Hyun-sung was being watched by the head of the UP team, Jo Min-woo. The man watching this was very angry and irritated. The worker said that the two were so close to each other but still missed each other. This is exactly what Jo Min-woo was talking about. If these two worked as a team, everything would be much easier. But none of that mattered because he knew for sure that she was the same class as him and he had the Reaper's chains. Just think that they ran into each other so soon, but it wasn't meant to be. Jo Min-woo watched as Han So-ah left. The man did not understand why Zdal offered the girl cooperation, since they were from the same class. The workers thought that if they put themselves in Hyun-sung's shoes, everything would be obvious. Meeting the same minion of Thanatos, not knowing whether he was an enemy or a friend, it was no wonder that Hyun-sung was cautious. Besides, Han So-ah didn't notice, so retreating quickly probably seemed like a good idea. There was nothing about Han So-ah in Hyun-seong's quest window, and that should have also alerted him. But to Jo Min-woo, all this was clear and without the employee's explanation. User So-ah and user Hyun-sung had different tasks. As the man thought, they were completely different. Hyun-sung was tasked with finding the traces, and So-ah was tasked with preventing the resurrection of the wyvern snake Aquilior. Jo Min-woo had a feeling that everything would go wrong. He has no choice but to pray that everything will work out well. A reconnaissance detachment gathered in front of the eastern gates of Vanilla. Hyun-sung thought that they could have recruited at least 1,000 people into the squad, but according to official data, they only gathered about 100. The notorious Guild of Superhumans selflessly shares the task with other users. The guy was sure that the Empire was up to something, but it didn't matter, because he just needed to follow the crowd to the castle, and once they got there, Hyun-sung would rush forward to break away from the squad. Meanwhile, Hyun-sung noticed that the guy who was recruiting people for the squad was looking at him strangely. It seemed like the guy understood why he was offended. It was probably because of the answers. Zdal was surprised that the guy in the mask did not avoid eye contact, and even more so, stared back at him with his own level. It would soon get dark, and the detachment would make a stop. That was when Zdal wanted to talk to him. Suddenly the boy received a message from Rainer. He told him to order the others to find something, and at that time they would quietly leave the squad and take all the goods from the castle first. Since Rainer had the badge, the progress of the mission depended only on him. The journey would take about 2 days in real time. During this period, they could reduce the number of expedition members. The man wrote that he would give a signal when it was time to act. Zdal was very surprised because Rainer wanted to deceive the whole guild. It was a good opportunity, but if things didn't go according to plan, Zdal was sure the man would blame him. He still wanted to deal with that masked guy. Hyun-sung knew that since that manager was giving him such fiery looks, he was definitely planning to attack him at night. If he had attacked by surprise, it would have probably worked. But Hyun-seong had figured out his plan, and he wouldn't give up so easily. It was already starting to get dark outside. Zdal, sitting on his horse, said that they would stand in this place for 3 real hours. This equates to 15 in-game hours, which is quite a long break. The two men discussed whether it would make sense to log out of the game and log back in towards the end of the break. Hyun-sung was sitting by the fire and suddenly received a notification. His class-exclusive quest was in progress, and so Thanatos' narcolepsy skill would be unavailable until the first trace was discovered. Zdal was about to attack. Hyun-seong wanted to lure this guy into the forest. Hyun-sung began to walk deeper into the forest. Zdal, seeing this, thought that the victim was walking towards his own death. In the dark forest, Zdal was hiding behind a tree. He thought about how this low-level player dared to be rude to a rare class player. The boy took out his sword and started running towards Hyun-sung. Suddenly, he heard the sound of a chain. But Zdal thought that this noob was not capable of anything at all. Hyun-sung looked at his opponent, making him feel an incomprehensible anxiety. The guy realized that this man in the mask did not have a chain after all. Suddenly, Zdal was surrounded from all sides by chains that were heading towards him. Now the boy realized that these were the Reaper's chains. Pure damage pierces through him, ignoring all shields, and also applies a buff. Hyun-sung didn't understand what happened. Zdal has died, and as a penalty, he will not be able to log into the game for the next 24 real-time hours. The girl just followed them just in case she didn't think that the guy would decide to commit murder. Han So-ah and Hyun-sung finally met. The girl asked him if everything was okay. Hyun-sung looked at her and didn't understand what was going on here. Since she can use Reaper's chains, it seems like she also has a Thanatos-related class. Also, Reaper's chains is a legendary ability. This girl's class is at least legendary rank. Han So-ah asked the guy if he was okay. He replied that he was fine because he didn't hit him with the attack. The girl suggested leaving here, because who knows, maybe this guy is not the only one. Hyun-sung thought it was safer to keep his distance from his potential rival. He didn't want to inadvertently give away something important about himself. With two new abilities at stake, the guy had to be careful. Han So-ah remained silently in place. The girl didn't understand what had just happened, and why she felt as if she had just lost to him. At this time, in the office of Inferno, the workers continued to watch the couple. Jo Min-woo was furious. He didn't understand why the guy didn't want to team up with this girl since she was related to his class. Although Hyun-sung's point was understandable. On top of all this, their tasks were formulated differently. Hyun-sung's mission is to find the trail, and So-ah must prevent Aquilior's resurrection. Jo Min-woo felt that soon all their plans would be completely ruined. Hyun-sung was going to pick up the scent and get away before the girl suspected anything. That was the best thing he could do in this situation. Soon the break was over, and it was time to move on. People didn't understand why there was such a rush and why there was no warning. They began to suspect that it was to make the users who had left the game leave the rest of the group. It seems that the death of that guy made them nervous. He will only be able to reveal the identity of the killer after he is resurrected. The guy called his boss and told him that he had died. Zdal said that there was a guy in a black mask in this unit. He followed him into the forest to beat his face in, but it was a trap, and he had an accomplice, so he was killed. The boss said that he understood everything and would now enter the game and take a look. The man sat in the capsule. He was about to log in from Rainer's account. The man immediately reported to the Superhuman Guild chat that someone from the reconnaissance squad was killing members of their guild. Suddenly, Rainer noticed something among the crowd. He saw that same guy in the black mask. He needed to follow him unnoticed. A man must achieve good results using the reconnaissance squad, then he will be noticed and will definitely be made a nobleman. Rainer will not tolerate obstacles in his path to achieving his goal. Han So-ah opened the quest and noticed that it was worded rather vaguely. It simply asked to prevent the resurrection of some snake, and it didn't even say what to do. If she was supposed to kill her, she wouldn't have bothered with the text of the task. But here, everything is a little different. Even though she was given a stupid task, one thing was clear. You can't let anyone into the castle. Rainer, sitting on his horse, saw a masked guy and his accomplice in the crowd. Han So-ah didn't understand why the guild leader was looking at that guy. She realized that it seemed like the spiky-haired manager had contacted him outside of the game. The girl made a mistake by not adding Hyun-sung as a friend because now she can't send him a message. Han So-ah helped him because the manager was going to kill him, and now he was in the crosshairs because of her too. Judging from his equipment, Hyun-sung was level 100 at best, so he wouldn't be able to do anything even if she warned him. Since the guy was still around, that meant that guy wasn't without fortitude. The girl had no choice but to protect him, even though she saved him from death. The guy was also exposed because of Han So-a. But if she saves him twice, he will probably be so grateful that he will be ready to do anything for her. There were supposed to be about 300 people left in the detachment, but since then many people have dropped out. It is not surprising that 35 in-game hours have passed. The squad has already been walking for 7 real hours. Hyun-sung also needed to rest a little. Nothing should happen in 2 real hours. Apparently, the murdered man managed to notify everyone because one group of players was staring at Hyun-sung. They didn't even hide the fact that they were watching him. A thought crept into his head that maybe something else was going on here. Or maybe they were looking at him on purpose so that Hyun-sung would understand that he had been exposed. The guy started to go into the forest because he didn't care about anyone. A team of players went after him. Hyun-sung was running quite slowly. If these guys couldn't keep up with him even at this pace, it meant that their running speed was inferior to his, or perhaps they were just pretending to be weak. The team of those players was already tired. They finally caught the guy. It was time to put an end to this. The guys discussed how they should have killed Hyun Sung right away instead of trying to figure out the identity of the accomplice. Hearing this conversation, Hyun Sung realized that those guys were probably talking about that girl. With her abilities, those idiots would never get to her. And don't tell me that they actually got involved with the dead guy. Come to think of it, he could have easily sent a message to the Superhuman Guild chat as soon as he was kicked out of the game, since he was also in their guild. Hyun Sung turned to them and said that he was finished. The boys felt their magnificence. The players told him to confess who helped him deal with Stall. But if there is even one chance, then you should try to take advantage of it. Hyun Sung took out his sword and rushed to attack. Those guys weren't prepared for this. Thanatos' nightmares were activated, and one boy was given a nightmare effect after Hyun Sung cut his neck. Without a second's hesitation, he continued to advance on everyone else. Hyun Sung mercilessly inflicted wounds on these guys. Soon the guy reached the last one. Hyun Sung hit the avatar's vital point and a fatal blow was dealt. The boy couldn't believe that this player was still alive. The avatar shouted that if a fatal blow came their way, they would receive a negative effect, so they should dodge the attacks if possible. Hyun Sung has started to get used to it. He needs to be more confident. One guy rushed to attack, shouting that they needed to attack with a whole crowd. Looks like this guy had a stealth class. He used cannonballs and hid a hidden weapon in his left hand. If he really plays with stealth, then it is not advantageous for him to attack from the front. He should, on the contrary, attack from behind. Hyun Sung landed a strong blow and the jumper user died. The guy got 3 defense points because of Thanatos' dreams. It probably wouldn't hurt for him to hunt other players from time to time. Suddenly, as if from the sky, an arrow flew out. But it flew past Hyun Sung's shoulder. The guy, seeing her, parried the blow. Then, an arrow hit one of the players in the eye, and he screamed in pain. Hyun Sung took 24 blades from the inventory. The boy ran forward, attacking the high-level player, heading towards the mage. Avatar shouted to his friends to put up a block. One player tried to restrain Hyun Sung's sword. Suddenly, the masked guy spun his sword, and the team member didn't understand what was happening. A moment later, his sword fell out. Before he could come to his senses, Hyun Sung attacked again. Avatar tried to come to the aid of his comrade. Hyun Sung threw a dagger at the magician. That pathetic guy tried to hold back the pain. Hyun Sung activated the volley skill. Dark mana cores flew at the archer. That player grimaced. It's a good thing Hyun Sung had managed to stock up on daggers in advance. At that moment, the avatar suddenly attacked. Hyun Sung withstood the blow and attacked 2 players at once, delivering a fatal blow. The guy killed the user Man Warrior and got a whole 5 defense points for it. It seems he was the strongest. Also, the user Yasuo died. A new arrow flew towards Hyun Sung. With a swing of the dagger, the boy split the arrow into 2 parts. Parts flew past in both directions. The players thought the guy in the mask was crazy. Hyun Sung smiled sweetly and said goodbye to them. A few moments later, a few more health points were added to his account. Hyun Sung not only received health points and a bunch of items, but also video footage. Moreover, not just a video, but a very decent video. The guy liked the moment when the arrow split in 2 the most. At first, he was upset that it just flew past. But in the end, it still turned out as it should. There will definitely be consequences after this mess. Hyun Sung will probably cause a stir if he returns to the camp like this. It would probably be better to take off the mask. Hyun Sung hasn't taken it off since joining the reconnaissance squad. Suddenly, the guy noticed that he had found a topographic map of Vanilla. Only the guild leader could own such things. There was another similar card lying nearby. But either way, Hyun Sung is grateful. The guy refused the reconnaissance mission, he won't have to follow him anymore. And he can also leave the game calmly. Hyun Sung was planning to return right after a snack and training. After teleportation, small sparks remained. Han So-ah came to this place and noticed that someone had just been there. The girl didn't understand why the guy fought so well. Last time it was also a decoy. And now, Hyun Sung also led the players into the forest to get rid of them without being noticed. But it didn't seem like a premeditated strategy. He realized he was being followed and tried to confuse them. Among the items he picked up was a map. After collecting the loot, he immediately exited the game. Han So-ah wondered what Hyun Sung's goal was. The girl was going to follow him, and also decided to go out for a while. The volley skill was used, and bullets appeared in space. They were aimed at the animals. The animals tried to attack Hyun Sung, But the guy, going around them, struck blows. Hyun Sung then used Thananos' Nocturne. The beasts were shrouded in dark energy. In a few moments there was nothing left of them. Hyun Sung ran quickly through the forest. The guild leader should have noticed the map was missing by now. Looks like the guy just needs to run in that direction. Hyun Sung was amazed by something. The boy turned around to look around. It looks like he just imagined something. It could have just been a misheard sound. Hyun Sung continued running. Han So-ah was watching him from behind a tree. She was curious about what kind of skill the boy was using. The girl ran after him. It usually takes 1 to 5 minutes to kill this monster, but Hyun Sung finished off 3 of them in a few seconds. Not even seconds. It was more like he killed them on the run, without wasting time on fighting. Besides control, the black lightning looked very dangerous. Watching his fight, Han So-ah thought that the guy was most likely a heroic or perhaps even legendary rank. His control is good, which means his class rank is high. Speaking of control, there's a good chance he had a good class to begin with. If Han So-ah ever decides to create her own guild, she'll want him in it. This time, Hyun Sung killed the monsters in 25 seconds. Perhaps it was the delay due to the skill cooldown. Han So-ah was amazed at how the boy was able to dodge and use the sword in such a way. The spin attack does more damage. Is there a way to use multiple spin attacks in a row? And the guy collected things even faster than he killed. Hyun Sung looked really cool in the girl's eyes. She saw how it was possible to dodge by simply jumping. In the Superhuman Guild chat, players wrote that they had lost their cards. Rainer was very angry because his players kept losing. Who would have thought that the guy in the mask would be capable of something without his ally? But overall, it could have been a lot worse. Even if that guy has a map, it doesn't mean he'll get to the castle right away. Rainer has never been kicked out of the game, so you'll have to wait at least 2 hours in real time. If a small group led by him leaves the reconnaissance detachment, there is a chance that they will reach the castle first. To do this, Rainer must assemble a team of fast players. To deal with 5 players so easily, you need at least level 150 or 200. This should be taken into account when forming a squad. Also, the man did not know how many enemies he had. 2 at least, or perhaps more. One can only pray that there are no more than 10 of them. It was already night outside. Hyun Sung couldn't wait to finally reach the castle. He had been running for 1.5 game days. You can't even level up while running, and time was running out. Suddenly, the guy noticed something. As he thought, those people created a new group after those 5 died and lost their cards. According to the map, they, like Hyun Sung, were moving at top speed. The guy is not sure if they will catch up with him before he reaches the castle. From the tracks, it can be determined that there are at least 5 of them, or about 10. But all of them were not lower than Hyun Sung's rank, so they were not a threat to him if their level was below 200. Now it was time to calm down a little. Because of the quest, karma points were not accumulated. This is the best time to fight face-to-face. In addition, unlike beasts, he will be given more HP for high-level players. Although he will not receive experience, he will have equipment, or HP, and video footage. It is said that one-on-one battle videos are currently at the peak of popularity. Hyun Sung finally found them. There were people sitting in front of the fire. The guy stood behind a tree and spied. It seemed like they were logging out one by one, leaving someone to keep watch. Even from here, it was clear that everyone was at least level 150, which was much higher than Hyun Sung. One, even quite possibly 200th. The guy took hold of the sword handle. Judging by their arrangement around the guild leader, they were his direct subordinates and were definitely stronger than the 5 he had killed earlier. But Hyun Sung already had a plan. If everything goes well, he will win. It was deep night outside. The guys from the squad were already sleepy. They discussed that they too could handle 5 players alone. One guy said they made up all these crazy stories about him, like the arrow being cut in half, because they were too embarrassed to admit that one guy had kicked all their asses. Another said that Rainer is a good leader, but he is a coward. Suddenly, the team heard some rustling in the bushes. In those new areas, there were no monsters with such abilities. A spell was cast on them. For the next 10 seconds, the team will run towards the caster. Players were unable to use any of their abilities. Soon they saw Hyun Sung in front. Looking closer, they saw a mask on the man's face. The entire team suffered serious damage at once. They will be given the nightmare effect and will experience hallucinations and pain for 5 seconds. Hyun Sung was ready to use volley. The players couldn't understand what was about to happen. One of the guys' hand went rigid and he wanted to attack. But suddenly a nightmarish core appeared above his head. It penetrated everyone's bodies, and the players fell to the ground. One guy took significant damage and was stunned for 3 seconds, with only 10% stamina left. Hyun Sung walked closer to him and held out the blade of his sword. Then a fatal blow was dealt and the user crack died. Hyun Sung received 100 HP. He killed the user with a difference of 100 levels. It was an impressive achievement, as it resulted in all stats being increased by 20. 20% was added to strength, as well as 30% to experience. Hyun Sung heard the other group quickly catch up to him. The boy watched them from behind a tree. Counting the ones he just killed, Hyun Sung had already dealt with 10 superhumans. Reiner shouted loudly that the guild master had returned and asked where the masked guy was. Suddenly, bullets were fired from behind a tree at the guild leader. Hyun Sung fired a warning shot at Reiner's squad. The entire team prepared themselves. Reiner shouted for him to come out, but Hyun Sung replied that they had to find him first. In idea, a warning strike automatically puts you into combat mode, and you can't leave the game without consequences. Hyun Sung shouted that if they continued like this, then leaving the game would be problematic. Due to the lack of combat for 5 minutes, the combat mode was over. The squad did not understand why the guy did not attack, because there was such a possibility. Due to the warning strike, combat mode was reactivated. Reiner yelled at the guy to come out if he was a man. Hyun Sung replied that he could have fun like this all night long. Once again, due to the lack of combat operations, the combat mode was disabled. After 10 minutes of this action, Reiner could no longer stand it. Suddenly, Hyun Sung came out from behind the bushes. The guild leader shouted for the players to attack. Suddenly something happened. All of them were imbued with the core of nightmare. Reiner's entire team has disappeared. Hyun Sung just killed the leader of the chapter, and now he won't be able to log in for 5 days. Now Hyun Sung had no hurry and wanted to take care of their things. It looks like that girl is the only obstacle left. She's most likely going with a reconnaissance squad, so there's nothing to worry about. Hyun Sung has left the game. The guy was sitting and eating at the table with his sister. He said that Hyuna looked very tired. The girl said that she doesn't know what came over their leader. Since yesterday, she started killing monsters very quickly, and Hyuna has a hard time keeping up with her. Hyun Sung assumed that she was a hurried type of player, but that was not the case. She was more of a person who put safety first, and then suddenly such a change happened. Even though Hyuna complained, she seemed to be having fun. It seems like the girl enjoys playing with her guild leader. From what she said, it seemed like they didn't have a very large guild. Hyuna agreed and said that they only had a few people. It seemed like Hyun Sung was interested, which was a good sign. The guy asked how their guild copes if there are so few of them. Usually, guilds take turns guarding a certain territory. Hyuna explained that each guild has its own tasks, so they develop differently. Of course, some guilds control a specific area, usually the one where a temporary dungeon appears. However, not all guilds are looking to capture territory and maximize profits. A lot of guilds are made up of people who just want to have a good time playing the game. They usually get together to go into high-level dungeons to hunt together, or just to hang out together. Hyun Sung was surprised and asked again if this was true. Hyuna offered him to join their guild. He replied that it was possible, but definitely not now. He's afraid that with his current character level he'll only get in the way, so he'll do it once he gets a little stronger. Hyuna was upset that she almost convinced her brother, but she failed. Hyun Sung has to take care of his sister's honor, and he doesn't want to disgrace her in the guild with his under-leveled character. Since the guy had already eaten, he could go to training. As he left the apartment, the guy thought for a minute. He was sorry he wouldn't be able to use the footage of Reiner's murder. It would be a shame to lose that footage, but the end of the battle was somewhat disappointing. His battle with those 5 guys was much more interesting, even more interesting than the battle that followed them. Hyun Sung's fighting style is different from the AI's, but the arrow that is cut in half is beyond praise. The guy decided to send this video after all. In the gym of the shopping center, Hyun Sung was running on the treadmill. The guy overheard a conversation where they were discussing the debacle around the gathering of the reconnaissance squad when the mysterious castle appeared. Someone thought that such a fuss arose only because high-level players from all over the north fled to Vanilla. In any case, the guild, by organizing the gathering of the discharge squad, committed a crime against its members. One guy was telling his friends that this guild had a bad reputation for a long time, but this time the user's anger was especially strong. The girl asked what happened. The members of the Guild of Superhumans were given the mission of bringing people to the castle, but instead of fulfilling their task, they intended to get rid of unwanted companions. The superhumans took it upon themselves to help the others complete the mission, but in the end, they only took advantage of their charges and then killed them. It is worth noting that no one forced them to recruit only people into the reconnaissance squad. The girl asked how they managed to refute this, since it was a crime against players. That was exactly it. Besides, no one in the squad had seen any of Rainer's guild members or his direct subordinates for a long time. There is a rumor that the members of the reconnaissance squad are planning to split up and continue their journey to the castle in small groups, but this information has not yet been confirmed. Hyun-sung felt a little awkward after hearing this. The guy continued to say that due to this, many members of the superhuman guild left the reconnaissance squad altogether, and other users do not accept them because of this. The girl said that something like this should not happen again. In a game created to help people relax and have a good time, there is no place for manipulation and arbitrariness. Hyun-sung didn't care about the superhuman guild. He was more worried about that girl who was also connected to Thananos. The guy hoped that she hadn't yet managed to get the card. He still didn't know whether she was a friend or an enemy. But in any case, it was necessary to get to the castle as quickly as possible. The girl seemed to him to be an honest person, but her playing style was far from that of a knight on a white horse. Her style is tough and unpretentious but effective. Jae-hwan was surprised that he received a new video. The guy turned around and told his team about it. The guys were sure that this video would definitely soon be at the top of the most viewed ones. One guy asked how many cases of energy drinks to buy, and Jae-hwan replied one for each. On the door, instead of the place where the training took place, there was a piece of paper that said that there was an evil person here. The coach noticed that Hyun-sung's reaction speed was like that of a cat. The guy's stamina also increased significantly. The man was sure that in addition to their martial arts lessons, Hyun-sung was also practicing on his own. This guy's learning speed is impressive as he instantly masters all the techniques he shows him. Hyun-sung also had a serious face and looked like a real beast in battle. Hyun-sung struck the master's weapon. The master told the boy that he would learn real martial arts here. In a real fight, he would have to be prepared to die when he dared to fight him. His spear was currently pushing aside the boy's daggers. The trainer wondered if he had ever had a student who had mastered the weapon so quickly. Hyun-sung did not lose momentum and quickly launched attacks. The guy felt confident and wanted to strike the spear from the side. As a result, the sword hit the iron handle. The master said that there were enough fights for today. The man suggested going to the trainer's room and looking at Hyun-sung's hand. As it turns out, in a real fight, the body reacts completely differently. Hyun-sung's hand was covered in blood, and he looked at it with a smile. The bleeding stopped, the arm was bandaged, so it's nothing serious. Hyun-sung thanked him and said goodbye. The master started shouting at him to look around and ask who he was trying to impress. After the boy asked again, the coach said that it would be better for him to rest until his hand healed. Hyun-sung asked if it wouldn't be easier to get more calluses to get used to it, and that was true. The boy said goodbye until tomorrow because he wanted to let his hands get used to the weapon as quickly as possible. The master stood a little confused. Hyun-sung said that they would see each other in class tomorrow, and also noted that they had worked well today. Delicious meat and vegetables were grilled on the grill. Hyun-sung was sitting at the table with his sister Hyuna and aunt. He said he was thinking about a MeTube name. Hyuna asked if his brother had a channel. He said he didn't, but Jae-hwan did. The guy lied, saying that Jae-hwan decided to edit his friend's video and asked him to come up with a cool nickname for him, but he had no ideas at all. Hyuna asked what kind of video he was going to edit. As Hyun-sung understood, they would make videos on the theme of two styles of play of that very friend, something like Jekyll and Hyde. The nickname should not be very long. They needed something that would fit the concept of the channel, but nothing came to mind. Hyuna and Auntie thought about it. Auntie asked what he thought about the nickname Asura. In one old cartoon there was a character named Baron Asura. He was half woman and half man. And there is also a god who has many arms and faces. Hyuna happily exclaimed that it really did fit perfectly. This is how Hyun-sung chose his nickname. The guy entered the idea capsule. He thought about his nickname. He thought it was pretty good, because it just bounced off his teeth. Hyun-sung was going to tell Jae-hwan about it tomorrow. Rainer from the guild would only be able to return to the game after 3 o'clock, so he had to reach the castle before then. Before a long run, the guy should warm up. The castle was still quite far away, and the journey would take 2 days. Hyun-sung finished his warm-up and it was time to set off. Suddenly, someone called out from behind him. It was Han So-ah. She looked really angry and said that the guy wasn't going anywhere. The guy asked again, not understanding what she wanted from him, and the girl repeated that the guy would not go anywhere. Beads of sweat appeared on Hyun Sung's face. That time when Hyun Sung was fighting a group of players, Han So-ah was watching him. She was amazed that the guy had instantly killed so many higher-level players. Not only was his control impressive, but his skill as well. It looks like the guy also had a high-ranking class. The girl also saw how the head of the superhuman guild was looking for the guy. Han So-ah sat in the bushes and watched as Hyun Sung played cat and mouse with them. Suddenly, she saw something. All the players in the superhuman guild masters group were struck by dark energy at once. Every time she saw Hyun Sung, goosebumps ran down her spine. A couple of minutes later, she saw the guy leave the game. Hyun Sung got rid of the superhumans and probably thought he deserved a rest. Then Han So-ah decided to go out for a while too. She went out for about an hour or an hour and a half and hoped that she wouldn't miss him. An hour and a half later, Han So-ah returned to the game. There was no trace of the boy anywhere to be seen, and it looked like he hadn't returned yet. Han So-ah climbed the tree. Even if she missed him, it was okay since she had the search skill, but it would still be a shame to miss some interesting battle. 10 in-game hours later, the girl continued to sit on the branch. 20 or 30 in-game hours passed. Han So-ah thought that the guy was probably sleeping. Since they hadn't set a time to meet, Hyun Sung wasn't late, so the girl decided to wait for him a little longer. It was already morning, and Han So-ah was furious that the guy hadn't returned. 2.5 days have already passed in the game, or 40 hours of real time, and it seems that Han So-ah has started to slowly go crazy. Suddenly, the guy was finally back in the game. She couldn't stand it any longer and decided to talk to him by coming down to the ground. When Han So-ah jumped down, she shouted at Hyun Sung that he wasn't going anywhere. The guy wondered how long the girl had been here. He hadn't noticed the surveillance, and it seemed she wasn't that simple. It was unlikely that the girl was Rainer's pawn, otherwise he would have been dead by now. Therefore, Hyun Sung will most likely survive if he chooses his words correctly, but if he chooses his words incorrectly, he may die. Hyun Sung didn't care about the levels, he just wanted a unique reward. Han So-ah was on her way to the castle and she just wanted to watch the guy fight for a little while longer, but unfortunately that won't happen and she can't fail the mission. At this time, the head of the UP team was watching them and thought that these two were complete idiots. They had almost the same tasks, but they couldn't cooperate. The only good thing was that they at least killed Rainer. Hyun Sung asked what she said. The girl didn't know what to do or what to say, but she had to be honest. Han So-ah replied that she was in the process of completing a mission, and that it was to not let anyone into the castle. It wasn't exactly true, but it wasn't a lie either. The guy knew that the girl was hiding something, but he could understand her. Hyun Sung replied that he knew what the task was. This was a task from Wyvern Aquilior. When the girl heard this, she was very surprised. Hyun Sung knew it would be easier than he thought. The guy also added about the god of death and sleep, Thanatos. He understood everything immediately when he saw the girl in battle. Han So-ah asked what this was about, and Hyun Sung released the Reaper's chains onto the boar lying nearby. The boy replied that he also had the Reaper's chains. Han So-ah couldn't believe that this was possible. Only one person could obtain the legendary class, so how come they had the same ability? Han So-ah thought that maybe the guy had a copy ability and copied her circuits, but that didn't explain him knowing about Aquiliora. Copy abilities don't work on higher-ranked classes. Hyun Sung wasn't exactly sure what her mission was, but he needed to go to the castle for a class quest. The girl asked why she should trust the guy. Hyun Sung smiled and said that he also had a legendary class and a connection with Thanatos. Han So-ah couldn't believe that this was possible, but as you can see, it is possible. As far as she knows, Thanatos is the strongest god in the world of Idea. Will such a powerful being be able to afford to have two legendary classes under his command? First, the guy had a map proving that he had the castle's quest. Hyun Sung memorized it, so he'll get to the castle anyway, but if someone takes it from him, there'll be problems. If a girl takes the map, she'll be able to get there quickly first. The guy explained that this card was an item that fell from superhumans. Hyun Sung confessed that the time the girl saved him, he lured that guy specifically in order to kill him later. The girl didn't answer, and the guy thought that he was mistaken and needed to be even more careful. After a few seconds, Han So-ah replied that she knew about it. She also knew that the guy first killed a squad of 5 people and then reinforcements. It seemed like the girl had been stalking Hyun Sung for a long time and almost openly admitted that she had been on his tail all this time. The guy was sure that she was definitely hiding something. It seemed like Hyun Sung was telling the truth. and then she decided to tell the truth too. Han So-ah apologized for stalking him, and she shouldn't have done that. She had been doing that since he got the card. Then it turns out that their missions are similar. Hyun-sung replied that he doesn't know for sure. Their roles are different, although they are both connected to Thanatos. Han So-ah replied that he was right. Her mission was to prevent Aquilior from being resurrected, and it was probably difficult. There were no instructions in the mission text. The assignment was explained to the guys in detail. It seems that their tasks were different. The girl is not looking for traces, but is trying to prevent the resurrection. But it cannot be ruled out that she may be lying. Han So-ah complained that they had very annoying skills. She, of course, understood that he was the god of death and sleep, but he had many more sleep skills than death skills. And they also had very few active skills and many passive ones. They were certainly not a combat class, but it was still annoying. Hyun-sun thought that the girl spoke too fast to be a liar because it was impossible to make things up that fast. The guy also complained about his skills. He only has a few attacking abilities, and even those have a long cooldown, and his sleep skills always worked at the most inopportune moment. Maybe that's why their skills are also sleeping and do nothing. It turns out that these two have quite a lot in common. Now the boy believed that the girl had a mission related to Aquilior. At first, Hyun-sung thought that she was not telling the whole story or was simply lying, but now she was being sincere. The guy thought that this girl was too trusting. He even felt a little sorry for her. But it was good that at least the girl wasn't an enemy. Hyun-sung decided that it would be better if he kept his divine class a secret. Since she is a class lower than Hyun-sung, therefore, she is his subordinate, and therefore she should be weaker. He does not necessarily have to get rid of her. But even so, the guy should be on guard. Han So-ah continued to complain, and Hyun-sung agreed with her. The guys were so busy chatting that they completely forgot to introduce themselves. Han So-ah asked the guy why he needed the mask, and he replied that it was his public persona since he has a MeTube channel. The guy doesn't need a face with that level of acting to attract an audience. The guy is so used to his mask that he often forgets he has it on. After a few seconds, the girl became embarrassed. Hyun-sung took off his mask, revealing a very handsome face behind it. Han So-ah turned away, embarrassed. Since they had similar tasks, the guy suggested going to the castle together. He also suggested running to get to the castle faster. Han So-ah couldn't take her eyes off him. As the guy has legendary class and excellent control, he has a great future on MeTube if he takes off his mask more often. But even it won't be able to hinder his success. The girl tried to focus on the task. Hyun-sung noticed that he was running as fast as he could, and Han So-ah was easily keeping up with him. Hyun-sung set himself the goal of overtaking her. The guy was curious about the difference in their levels. Han So-ah wanted to send him a friend request, but first she needed to come up with a reason. But Han So-ah still suggested adding each other as friends. She said that she really didn't want this. She was just afraid that they might miss each other, and he had the map, and she didn't want to give up her team so as not to share the experience. Hyun-sung agreed and sent a friend request. Now they have become friends. The mysterious castle was visible in the yard. The guys looked at it with admiration. It seemed much bigger up close. Han So-ah looked at the guy intently. They got here in 25 hours, and he wasn't tired at all. Hyun-sung had a really strong spirit. With such a set of qualities, he would definitely be ranked among the top players. Han So-ah also wanted to give it her all. Hyun-sung finally suggested that we come in. The guy managed to get through the barrier, but the girl hit her head on it. She couldn't enter. She had to guard the entrance to the castle until the task was completed. Han So-ah asked if Hyun-sung had received any notices. His notice stated that only a descendant of Thanatos could enter, and that he had to pass the Apostle of Thanatos' test to gain access. He could only detect the trail after passing the test, and if he failed the test, Aquilior would be resurrected. Apparently, only he can go through this, because at the very beginning he jumped almost 50 levels at once. Hyun-sung said the messages said he needed to get tested, but he didn't want to tell her the whole truth. Han So-ae said that she thinks the castle appeared because of him. This place is more connected to him than to the girl, and in general the whole castle appeared for him and his task. Then Hyun-sung had to pass the test, and she would guard the castle as written in the notice. It seems there is only one entrance, so if Rainer does get to the castle, he will have to deal with Han So-ah. Hyun-sung passed through the barrier inside. They ran together for a whole in-game day, and couldn't the guy say at least a word before leaving? Han So-ah activated her territory capture skill. She didn't want to think about it, and she wasn't going to stop Hyun-sung either. But if he even tried not to come back, something terrible would happen. The girl activated the holiness skill. Her image changed to a new one. Hanso-ah struck the ground with her scythe and summoned demons. Anyone who dares to take over this place will be killed. The demons began to carry out the order. Every time this skill was used, Hanso-ah would get goosebumps and her hair would stand on end. But it wasn't bad. But what if Hyun-sung fails the test? The girl decided to put these thoughts aside because she was sure that the guy would cope. And if, even after Hyun-sung's return, he doesn't thank her for everything she's done for him, then a real nightmare will begin. At this time, the guy approached the statue of Wyvern Aquilior. She was probably about 100 meters tall and looked frightening. Suddenly, Aquilior growled. Hyun-sung immediately took out his sword and prepared to fight. It seemed like the snake heard him and was angry that the guy called it that, but the statue still didn't move. A notification came that the player had found the captive Wyvern Aquilior, and he received a new achievement. All his stats were permanently increased by 5. All the stats increased just from looking at her. It seemed like Aquilior was truly strong. Suddenly, a new object appeared nearby. Out of nowhere, a table with a chair suddenly appeared. The first stage of the test began. It was necessary to solve the proposed problems. With each incorrect answer, the difficulty of the next task would increase. 1 hour was given for completion. Hyun-sung came closer and saw a piece of paper and a pen on the table. It really did look like an exam. The first question asked for Thananos' full name. Hyun-sung, seeing the first question, decided to skip it. The second one required writing the full name of the apostle, and the guy also decided to skip it. Hyun-sung thought for a moment. He decided to skip all the questions at once, because it didn't matter to him. He liked difficult tasks anyway. There were 10 minutes left, and it was necessary to hurry up and write down the answers. The fewer correct answers there were, the more difficult the next task would be. Hyun-sung probably needed to read the assignment texts more carefully. He already regretted that he had taken up this dispute at all. And he just needed to lose and fulfill someone else's wish. Now it was time to get punished for my focus on levels. Time is up and the results are being tallied. All the answers were wrong and the highest difficulty was activated. The wyvern's doppelganger Aquilor awakened. Aquilor's eye glowed red. The entire snake statue began to crack. Hyun-sung only now realized that he had increased the monster's power to the maximum. The wyvern Aquilor struck with one of its paws. The guy managed to dodge. He was terrified because he understood that he would die from one blow from her. The snake growled loudly. It's good that its roar doesn't impose a horror effect. Even so, Hyun-sung's entire body was shaking with fear without it. The huge paw of the wyvern Aquilor appeared right above him. The guy somehow managed to dodge. The blow was so big that all the stones flew into small pieces. The wyvern continued to try to catch the player. Hyun-sung's stamina has decreased due to the avatar's state of shock. For now, he was going to dodge as much as possible. Hyun-sung took off all his equipment and moved it to his inventory. He didn't feel so confident without his sword, but it couldn't be helped. Right now, he spent all his remaining skill points, adding 10 points to his agility. The wyvern Aquilor growled and wanted to wave its tail to knock the guy down. Previously, Hyun-sung just bought a health elixir just in case, but he didn't think he would need it. Suddenly, wyvern Aquilor spread its wings. By waving them, she creates a strong wind, which hinders his movement. Only 5 minutes had passed since the start, and there were still 55 to go. Thank God she at least left some debris behind and it was a place to hide. It was becoming more and more difficult to dodge. This snake was anticipating all his movements. The wyvern roared again, and a large fireball appeared in its mouth. The guy used the siren call skill. The snake immediately turned its attention to this. At this moment, Hyun-sung started running to another place. A second later, wyvern Aquilor once again gathered the huge core in its mouth. The snake breathed fire, destroying everything in its path. The guy somehow managed to escape from the fire. With just one breath, the entire hall disappeared into flames. It looks like this thing was designed solely for destruction. It would seem that it is completely impossible to defeat her at this level of difficulty. Hyun-sung was angry and needed to think of something urgently. The guy took a dagger in one hand and activated volley in the other. The player attacked the wyvern's paw, and very strange sounds were emitted. Then the guy realized that the damage was accumulating. The snake began to growl in pain. Hyun-sung's attacks were surprisingly working. I should have tried this earlier. The guy put all his gear back on. He turned on the video recording. Now the real battle was about to begin. Hyun-sung activated Thananos' Nocturne, dealing critical damage. The guy looked at Aquilor with a smile, and understood that now she would turn into a corpse. Inferno Office, User Management Department. Jo Min-woo watched as Hyun-sung fought Aquiller. If the guy dies, there will be no one left to stop the snake, and nothing will save the Korean server. Even if they assembled a special squad, they wouldn't be able to defeat Wyvern. Most users' levels are too low for such a battle. Suddenly, the Wyvern breathed fire. The office workers were surprised when Hyun-sung dodged. The worker wondered how the boy knew that the siren's call would cause the Wyvern to open. Hyun-sung uses a blade and a magical fire projectile. Jo Min-woo was sure that it would definitely not work. Jo Min-woo was very surprised when he realized that the guy was able to kill the Wyvern's doppelganger. The worker also said that Hyun-sung had a lot of chances. Jo Min-woo knew that the clone was not that much weaker than the Wyvern itself, so it was almost impossible to kill, but it should still drop something after defeating it. The worker wanted to talk about this. He didn't know about other difficulties, but there is definitely a reward at the highest one. It's even written about it in the manual. Jo Min-woo watched and hoped that the boy would fail. Items and skills dropped by the Wyvern should not be available this early in the game. Hyun-sung used Thanatos Nocturne, and beads of sweat appeared on Jo Min-woo's face. The blows the guy dealt were successful. If it had been a real Wyvern and not a clone, nothing would have worked. Verna swung her tail to prevent the enemy from reaching her. Aquilor wanted to step on the player with her huge paw again, but he dodged. As it turned out, the Wyvern's double is not so dangerous in close combat due to its own structure. It is clumsy, so you have to attack right under its nose. The Wyvern growled loudly in pain. Verna's doppelganger has been given a nightmare effect and will experience hallucinations and pain for 1 second. She wasn't stunned, and due to the difference in levels, the effect only lasted half a second. Hyun-sung jumped up, jumping away from the snake's neck. During the attacks, he found one interesting place on her, but it was difficult to get to because this bastard was constantly moving. This is her weak spot, and every dragon has this place. The guy hit the Wyvern's doppelganger's vital point and was dealt a critical hit, and this happened several times. For now, Verna didn't seem to be planning on dying, so the Sabbath of the Dead would have to be held back. Hyun-sung had already used Nocturne 8 times, but that Viper was still alive. There were 10 minutes left until the end of the test. The boy activated the siren call after the Wyvern began to form a core. Immediately, Aquilor began breathing fire for the second time. After that, her stamina dropped to 10%. She will remain in the awakened state for another minute, and the Wyvern also gains immunity to all negative effects. Until the end of the awakening, her doppelganger will return to the hibernation state after 1 minute. It turns out that there won't be another chance. Aquilor growled, her jaw clenched. Hyun-sung finally used the Sabbath of the Dead. Due to the doppelganger's immunity, the hibernation effect was cancelled and attack damage was doubled for 1 minute. One hit from a Wyvern kills the guy. Suddenly, everything around was engulfed in flames. At this time, Hyun-sung was able to jump up. He used the Reaper's chains and delivered 4 through attacks. After that, the Wyvern immediately breathed fire again. Hyun-sung's body was visible through the flames. The guy used the skill Berserker's Song. Jumping straight into the mouth of this huge viper, Hyun-sung used Thanatos' Nocturne. After this, columns of smoke rose into the air and the player's level increased. Hyun-sung stood on the Wyvern's head and realized that victory was finally his. He already thought that the end had come for him. The enemy's body began to gradually disappear. Without Nocturne of Thanatos, he would have been in big trouble, and Berserker's Song came at the right time. It turns out that even skills become stronger when you level up. It was pure luck. Hyun-sung urgently needed to acquire evasion skills. Now it was possible to look at the dropped items. The guy achieved an incredible result, and all his characteristics were increased by 30. Hyun-sung managed to quickly collect all of his awards. Suddenly, someone teleported into the room. The man said that he was glad to meet you, adding that Hyun-sung was his god. Apparently, it was the same apostle, but it was not a person but a hologram. The apostle said that if the guy was here, it meant he had managed to defeat the Wyvern's double. If he had simply avoided its attacks, he would have ended up in another room with a recording of his monologue and would have only gained power. But the apostle did not expect anything less from the descendant of Thanatos. The guy's stubbornness is simply amazing. The man forgot to introduce himself. He said that he was the apostle of Thanatos, and it was too early to name him. There were still a few tasks left. Hyun-sung realized that this man was the author of those test questions. Since the apostle was only a hologram, he couldn't see the guy, but he could tell that he was very angry with him because of that test. The apostle thought that the player was eager to know the correct answers. Hyun Sung thought that he should calm down, because this was just a projection, and he would be able to take revenge when he met this weirdo in person. The apostle said that he should put jokes aside, and now he would give him power. Although Hyun Sung will have to choose between power and the relic, when he finds the first trace, he will be able to choose one of the two powers. The power that the player does not choose now will be available later. The apostle advised to choose the one that will be more useful now. Two icons appeared in front of the guy. Thanatos' call is like the call of death. It is impossible to resist. When activated, this skill consumes 1,000 health points. When activated, all living creatures within 100 meters will instantly die. The inability to gain experience points is a pretty big drawback, so I should have looked at the second option first. When Hyun Sung saw him, he didn't think for a minute. He immediately pressed the select button. At this time, in the Inferno office, the user management department, Jo Min Woo thought that even the highest ranked rankers would need at least a year to do this. But Hyun Sung had obtained a legendary item and a skill book, and he hoped that the guy wouldn't sell it all. Still, it was for the best. Now he should definitely be able to deal with the wyvern. Jo Min Woo was curious about what kind of authorities he would come across. Due to the call of Thanatos, the player may stop leveling up. Suddenly, Jo Min Woo saw something and was very surprised. He asked the workers if he had imagined it. Hyun Sun chose this very power. It's good that the guy won't be able to level up at a crazy speed now, but the problem wasn't the levels. If he gets this skill, it won't affect anything until he's level 100. Eventually, he will only gain levels faster. Jo Min Woo decided to go to the boss first, and on the way dropped by the development team. One worker even felt sorry for the main one. Out of all the skills, this was the one he dropped. The second skill was called Thanatos' Lucid Dream. If Hyun Sung received half as many experience points, it would be difficult for him to level up. Hyun Sung opened a DP store. Now, instead of 24 days for the health point store to cool down, the guy will only have to wait 12. He will have the opportunity to buy legendary skills more often, and also double the amount of health points. Hyun Sung was very happy when he realized that he could buy the legendary skill twice a month. And the active skill was also nothing. The guy would be able to use the Berserker's song, becoming invulnerable for a whole minute and not be afraid of the consequences. The apostle said that the player made the right choice. It would be great to see him at level 100. He also said that this castle would go back underground in a minute. Hyun Seong would die if he didn't leave the castle within 1 minute, so he better hurry. The boy promised that he would punch the apostle the first time they met and ran faster through the corridors. Just as I managed to run out, the castle behind me collapsed. Han So-ah saw Hyun Sung and thought he had failed. The guy noticed that the girl had managed to change her clothes. She asked why the castle was missing and said it looked like it was created by an apostle. Hyun Sung was surprised when he realized that Han So-ah also knew about him. The girl told him that she had also bumped into him. Suddenly, she saw that her task was completed. She was interested to see what skills she would gain. But after looking through it, she realized that the skills weren't that cool. Han So-ah asked if the guy got a good reward, since low-level players usually get good skills. Hyun Sung replied that he was satisfied with what he got in the castle. Han So-ah asked if the monster dropped any items. The guy had completely forgotten about them, and he needed to see what was there. Hyun Sung was surprised when he saw the legendary skill book. Even though the wyvern was a double, the items were appropriate. The guy also got Desert Mirage. It was pretty good. Similar to dodging, you create a double of yourself and you can run away or hide. Next was the Dream Belt skill. With it, you could dodge 5 times a day, which is pretty cool. The next skill was Killian's Ring. Although Hyun Sung wouldn't be able to wear the ring, the belt and boots would suit him. Finally, only the long-awaited legendary item remains. It was called Serpent's Heart. After absorbing, the magic power became 500, as well as intelligence. The power of intelligence was doubled. If used as a material, the manufactured items will be at least unique rank. The skill book seemed to be only usable by legendary mages, but surprisingly, the tab said that Hyun Seong could use it. The guy also received the legendary skill Dragon's Tongue. With its help, the recharge time for all magic skills is ignored. When using the Dragon's Tongue, the power of magic is halved, the consumption of Ohm is doubled. Han So-ah saw that it seemed like Hyun Sung had gotten lucky with the award. The guy suggested the girl to meet again sometime. Han So-ah thanked him for his help. She was sorry that they had to part, but at least she added him as a friend. A moment later, Hyun Sung was out of the game. Hanso Ah envied him because he had such a great profit. The girl received the legendary skill Alarm Clock. With its help, it was possible to wake up an ally, preserving all the effects associated with sleep. Hanso Ah couldn't understand the point of waking someone up and leaving the effects of sleep. She even lost her desire to play because some unnecessary things always fell out. Hotel Vinaya on the central square. Hyun Sung sat on the bed. In his hands, he held that very heart of the snake. The guy swallowed it. It tasted like caramel. Next, he wanted to put on the belt of dreams and the desert mirage. It was crazy. Hyun Sung had leveled up 20 levels, his stamina had doubled, and his magic had surpassed 600. Now he can shoot magic balls left and right by himself, and everyone will think he is a magician when they see him in battle. Hyun Sung collapsed onto the bed. He wanted to spend 25 skill points on endurance and use the rest on strength. That was finally all for today, and it was time to rest. Jae Hwan couldn't sleep after that video and didn't sleep the whole night. Hyun Sung and Jae Hwan were sitting together in a coffee shop, and Hyun Sung told his friend to remember to take a break from work. Today, the guy wanted to take a day off since he made a video with extra time and he had a couple of days. Jae Hwan said that he could publish the video he sent. It is very relatively short and very eventful. It simply needs to be published as soon as possible. The guy also asked if Hyun Sung had come up with a nickname for himself, and his friend replied that his nurse had suggested it to him. It was very short and catchy. This nickname was called Asura. Jae Hwan immediately thought of the three-faced god. It also referred to Vokoda Asura from an old manhwa, the one who is both a girl and a guy. Jae Hwan seemed to remember this and said that the nickname sounds cool, it fits the theme and is not too long. The guy offered to raise the nurse's salary. Hyun Sung had wanted to give her such a gift for a long time. Probably should have posted the 5v1 video first. The Orc Spirit Kill video was good, but compared to the 5v1 fight, Jae Hwan noticed that the guy's fighting style has changed a lot since then. It seemed like Hyun Sung had been overdoing it with his use of AI before, but now the difference was obvious. Jae Hwan kept talking about the footage. Hyun Sung asked me if he felt sorry for cutting out all the unnecessary stuff, but my friend replied that there was no need to think of it as a loss, because he was not the only one who said that to him. Jae Hwan asked when there would be a new video. Hyun Sung was going to give the video of the fight with the Wyvern clone later. If he did it now, he would postpone his vacation again. The guy sent another video yesterday and asked why else. Jae Hwan replied that it would be great if Hyun Sung recorded everything he did as long as he was in it. But Hyun Sung thought that it was his video, so only he would decide what he was okay with posting. In that case, don't expect any material from him. Hyun Sung was too much of a perfectionist. Jae Hwan asked to send him the footage of the monster hunt, and they would edit it properly and publish it. In the end, Hyun Sung agreed to send if there was anything. Jae Hwan asked where the guy was now, and he replied that he was in Vienna for now. It's a popular spot, and players of level 100 and above hunt there. Jae Hwan wondered what level Hyun Seong was then. Hyun Sung replied that he was already at level 74, but he wasn't chasing numbers. Leveling up prevented him from enjoying the interesting missions and exploring the game world, so for now, he was playing for fun. Jae Hwan asked if the boy was planning on getting into something again soon, like finding a secret dungeon or fighting a guild of villains. If the boy was talking about a guild of people above, then they were more likely to be considered a bunch of hooligans. For now, Hyun Sung just wanted to play with his friends, although his playstyle doesn't seem to be one that likes teamwork. Communicating with other players is also an important part of the game, and he was bored of playing alone. Jae Hwan laughed at his friend. Hyun Sung didn't like it because he is a very sociable person. The man also said that he shouldn't forget to write down interesting events. Hyun Sung replied that he wasn't going to send him anything. Did he really think that miracles happen to the guy every day? In the end, the guys made a bet that Hyun Sung would still send some material soon. A strong hand struck the capsule. Reiner thought about Dorgnome. He believed that the man knew that he would take the entire reward for himself, so he declared a hunt for Reiner, and the guild of superhumans finally fell apart. Because he was wanted, he couldn't enter as Reiner. The man wanted to send Hyun Sung to jail once he caught him. That guy destroyed everything Reiner had worked so hard to achieve. The man was planning to sell the capsule if he ran out of money, but it looks like he'll have to wait. After entering the capsule, he decided to create a new account. This account was of a unique class, and now the guy didn't have a chance. Vania, hotel on the central square. Hyun Sung received 36 health points after sleeping for 31 hours and 40 minutes. Getting out of bed, the guy did a little warm-up. Hyun-sung saw that he had received a new skill, the one for reaching level 60. This skill was called Thananos' Collection, with which you can collect souls and defeated bosses. It wasn't bad, but it was too simple for a divine one. Maybe in the future there would be a skill that would require it. Hyun-sung wanted to take on a new quest and stood in line at the quest board. The guy wanted to take a collective one, and he asked what the highest paying one was here. Hyun-sung unlocked the shark fin quest. The mayor of Vanilla has decided to open restaurants, and as an ingredient for his dishes, he needs shark fins, which only live in the underwater cave dungeon, but they are not so easy to get. After reading the quest, the guy accepted it. Suddenly, a player came up and asked if Hyun-sung remembered him. It was the same guy who bought junk in the village of Reha. He thought he was making a lasting impression on everyone, so he was surprised that the guy forgot so quickly. The player extended his hand and introduced himself as Amir. Amir noticed that Hyun-sung was in Reha last time and now in Vanilla, and asked if he was here because of the castle. Hyun-sung replied that it was, but it was over, so now he was just hunting. The guy asked how he could help Amir. The player liked that Hyun-sung was quick-witted. He didn't need anything specific, just to say where the guy was hunting, and if he wasn't particularly busy, then to join their squad. Hyun-sung said he was going to an underwater cave, and it turns out they have the same missions. Amir began to tell that in their team, rewards are distributed depending on the contribution of each member, and there are many, many more additions to their team. With such favorable conditions, it was difficult to refuse. In Amir's squad, everyone except him already knows each other, so he is glad that now he also has someone he knows. Hyun-sung said that he was a low-level but a rare class, so Amir would be in good hands. Amir envied the rare class. He only became a merchant because he wanted to earn more money. Hyun-sung was glad that the guy believed in the rare class. It was good that other players couldn't see his data. Amir sent an invitation to the team. Besides Hyun-sung, there were 4 other players on the team. The guy suggested going to the others. Hyun-sung said that they needed to tell them about the rank, otherwise they would think that the guy invited some newbie to the squad. Amir laughed and said that everything was fine because they were good guys. The guys came to the cafe. Hyun-sung introduced himself to everyone and said that he had a low level but a rare class, so there was no need to kick him out. A guy named Kuma said that it doesn't matter at all, and as you can tell, he's an archer. The girl with pink hair was named Fian, and she was a mage. Next to her sat a girl named Luina. She has a healer class. Hyun-sung leaned over and said that he was at their service. Kuma immediately noticed the boots and belt of the new team member. Fian noticed a good sword. Amir brought a very successful man. Luina thought these guys were spineless wimps, so they would be easy to clean out. In the group chat, they discussed how easy it would be to clean out these guys. Amir was very happy and wanted to hunt for glory. Amir froze in horror at what was about to happen. A humanoid turtle attacked him from above, but the guy managed to dodge. He rushed to run back so that Hyun-sung could strike at that time. The guy attacked hard in the chest. Hyun-sung noticed that this monster had good defense. Maybe it was because it was a turtle. The guy dodged to the side and a beam shot out from the turtle's heart. The monster screamed, because his whole body was permeated with pain. Hyun-sung then launched his next attack. Kumi released the arrow and hit the target right on target. Another turtle with a huge axe suddenly wanted to attack Amir. The guy already thought that he was about to die and no one could save him. At this time, Hyun-sung came to the rescue, covering Amir and holding back the blow with his sword. Even with great strength, the guy understood that it was difficult to hold him back. Suddenly, Hyun-sung received a health recovery. He shouted and thanked Luina. The boy continued to attack the turtles. Suddenly, a nearby monster struck the ground with a powerful blow. Fian used a lightning staff. All the electricity passed through the monster's body. Finally, the boys managed to do it, and the turtle fell to the ground. Those guys in the private chat were discussing Hyun-sung's skills. They should be more careful. Hyun-sung realized that the team didn't suspect anything, and he would need to hunt with them more often. Holding back your powers isn't very pleasant, but it's even fun in its own way, and it's nice to hunt like this sometimes in a team of other players. Amir sent the guy the fins, then they will divide the items, they just need to calculate the cost. Hyun-sung received almost 548,000 gold coins. They divided the money, and now they could rest a little. Hyun-sung was surprised that there was another halt, and that the regular troops rested so much. Amir asked where they would go next. If you go to the right, there are a lot of people there, so it should be safer there. And on the left, there are no people at all. On the left and right, the difficulty is much higher. Kumi replied that he wanted to go left. To be honest, although the right was safer, it was too crowded. There was no spirit of adventure, and he would go where no one had been before, even if it was risky. Fian thought that there was no need to take risks, since they didn't need any trouble, and suggested that they just go to the right, but Luina wanted to go where Amir said. Hyun Sung told them he wanted to go left. In the end, they all decided to go left. Hyun Sung fought with shark monsters. The monsters here are noticeably stronger. The boy received a shark fin, as well as almost 600 gold coins from Amir. The fight was difficult, and Amir suggested resting for about 10 minutes before moving on. Now they rest even more often and longer, which infuriated Hyun Sung, because they would have finished in an hour if not for all these breaks. Probably, in regular squads, this is a normal thing. The teams we met along the way also rested a lot. Hyun Sung suspected that the guys were up to something. They were definitely talking about something among themselves and didn't even try to hide it. They were also watching Hyun Sung. Maybe they wanted to steal his items. One extra move from them and they will be dead. But what do they ultimately want? Perhaps a specific item or all goods in general, and it seems that Amir is not involved in this. Kumi stood up and suggested that they go further. He would continue to lure the monsters, and Amir would distract them. Hyun Sung noticed that the boys weren't bothering Amir, and the boy decided to just watch for now. He liked that Amir immediately divided all the prey, so the hunt became more interesting. Hyun Sung thought about those sisters from his previous team. He wondered what they were doing now. If he thought about it, he spent all his energy on battles and didn't really help them, but they still kept up. He regretted that he didn't have time to add them as friends. The new shark monster ran after Kuma, and the boy shouted that he was coming. Amir, taking the coin in his hands, used the charms of greed. This coin hit the shark's head and bounced off. It was a good provocation skill, probably rare or even unique. As the shark ran closer to the boys, Hyun Sung delivered a powerful blow. Immediately after this, a lightning discharge was used. Hyun Sung thought about exposing himself once. The guy got punched by the monster. Luina reacted quickly and healed him. Fian used her staff and the skill Lightning Spear was activated. The shark began to disappear little by little. Kumi turned to Fian and said that her lightning magic never failed. It would be so strong because they were in a water dungeon. But at the same time, they had to be careful here because it could accidentally fry them too. Amir immediately opened his inventory. This time they didn't get the fin, but the monster did drop a bunch of other items in gold. Kumi noticed something, pointed his finger forward and asked what was there. But there was nothing unusual in front. Kumi said he was an archer, so he had sharp eyesight and good reaction speed. The guys could hardly notice anything in the dark, but there was something strange. Hyun Sung suspected something was wrong because his reaction speed was over 400. Reaction speed is related to visual acuity and perception, but Hyun Sung saw nothing. Kumi was a bad actor, and Hyun Sung was even curious about what these guys were planning to do. Amir and Hyun Sung replied that they could not see anything. Amir was so happy and suggested to see what was there, because it would be great to accidentally find something like a secret room. The team moved forward and there was a wall in front of them. Kumi pointed at it and said that it looked strange. Hyun Sung thought that there was no way they could have noticed the passage from that corner, which meant that they already knew it was there. That guy said he disarmed the trap and opened the passage. Everyone was thrilled that they had found a secret dungeon. Amir didn't expect them to find anything secret and wanted to move on as quickly as possible. The team moved forward. Those three guys were glad that the boys fell for it. Soon, the boys reached the boss's room and wanted to take a rest first and then go inside. There was a scary picture on the gate of the room. Kumi asked to sell him some arrows because he had run out. Amir opened his inventory. Kumi was surprised by such a large variety. Hyun Sung thought that the guys still hadn't tried to kill them, even though they had already entered the dungeon hidden from prying eyes. They were simply continuing to slowly hunt. It's not clear yet what they're up to, but everything will probably become clear in the boss's room. The guy was bored that they were dragging it out for so long. He wanted to finish it as soon as possible and go to training. Amir said that they don't know anything about the boss and they should be careful. He paid special attention to Hyun Sung. The guy won't be able to provoke the boss, so he will need to stand at the forefront, and if things get difficult, then immediately shout, and in that case, Amir will come to the rescue. All the members of the squad gathered together and went inside. When Hyun Sung and Amir saw the boss, they were surprised, but the others didn't seem to care. Saber-Tooth Laquaton has awakened. This was Hyun Sung's first time facing a secret dungeon boss, and they were probably even stronger than the normal ones. The guy thought that the guys were going to attack him after the battle, when he would be left without strength. It was time to start. For now, Hyun-sung wanted to focus on the boss and rush to attack. He immediately dealt one blow, causing the monster to scream. Amir admired the guy's fight, but Kumi didn't understand where he got such control from. Amir used the gold multiplication skill and scattered a whole bunch of coins. They all hit Lakutan's skin with quite a lot of force. Hyun-sung stood behind them, and the monster rushed towards Amir. At this time, Hyun-sung took advantage of the moment and jumped on Lakutan's neck. He landed a powerful blow straight to the eye. The monster screamed in severe pain and covered his eyes with his hands. Amir shouted to the guys that now was the time. Everyone started using their skills as best they could. Due to the negative effect, damage dealt has increased by 10%. Lakutan wanted to knock Hyun-sung off the road with his huge paw. Now it would be logical to dodge the attack. Hyun-sung used Mirage on his shoes. A huge monster bit him on the shoulder. Suddenly, he realized that something was wrong. In a moment, the boy inflicted a large number of wounds by swinging his sword. Lakutan wanted revenge and was ready to strike with his fist. The monster hit the ground hard, and there was a strong impact. Hyun-sung quickly jumped back. The team used everything they could because the guy was in danger. Those guys were ready to start their plan. Luina said that she had too little mana left, so she wouldn't be able to heal Hyun-sung. Fian used lightning bolt magic again. She shouted at the boy to be careful, but the discharge pierced both Lakutan and Hyun-sung. The guy was almost sure that the girl did it on purpose. Suddenly, the boss bit Hyun-sung. With one free hand, the guy delivered a strong blow to the neck to free the limb. It hit Lakutan's vital point and dealt a critical hit, causing the monster to be in a faint state for 5 seconds. The players were angry because they didn't understand how the guy managed to get out. It seems like they were planning to finish him off by making it look like an accident, and they knew how Lakutan would act. It seems like Hyun-sung wasn't the only victim. The team didn't understand what to do. Kumi said to aim properly and throw another shell. Fian used her staff again. She shouted at Hyun-sung to dodge and landed straight at Lakutan. This made the players even more angry. Luina used the holy beam. The beam went straight to the guy, although the girl said that she had little mana, and because of this she would not be able to heal him. It seems she was saving her strength for attacks. Hyun-sung was able to dodge and make the beam hit the boss. The guy shouted that he made it in time, and Luina laughed nervously. The players didn't understand what to do and why the boss was behaving this way. Amir told the team that they are just incredible guys, and it is an honor for him to watch real pros play. The team finally killed the saber-toothed Lakutan. Hyun-sung said that he survived only thanks to them and smiled on his face. But the players didn't even hide their surprise and anger. The team has cleared the secret dungeon in the underwater cave and will be teleported to the main gate of Vania in 10 seconds. The team stood at the exit to the lake. Amir thanked the team because he would not have succeeded if it were not for them. On that note, he wanted to give away all the golden items he got from the boss. Hyun-sung asked if he was sure. Amir replied that he had already gotten a lot of resources while they were hunting monsters, so he didn't mind. And besides, the boss only dropped 4 items. Kuma was going to take the leather armor, and Fian was going to take the sword. Amir, hearing this, thought that the guys had no manners, because they simply chose what they wanted without even asking what Hyun-sung wanted to take. But he wasn't that sad because it seemed like Hyun-sung didn't really care about it as he was twirling the skill book in his hands. The guy received an active skill called Shark Torpedo, which uses 500 MP to send a water shark at the enemy. Judging by the mana consumption and cooldown, it's quite a powerful magic, and thanks to the dragon tongue, he'll be able to ignore the cooldown and throw it around left and right. Amir asked if Hyun-sung would be okay with adding him as a friend, and of course he agreed. The guy was glad that he already had 2 friends on his list. The rest of the guys started to leave, saying they had urgent business. Amir noticed that the guys were friendly as soon as they met. Amir suggested that the guy go to Vienna together, but Hyun-sung also had his own things to do. Amir said to call him when he has time, and he will make a discount on potions and buy all his inventory at a high price. The guy equipped the legendary ancient merchant's briefcase. He had little fun with anyone as much as with Hyun-sung. Now it was time for Amir to go to Venice. The players in the chat were discussing Hyun-sung again. Kuma was sure that it wasn't all about control, and besides, how could you make the boss move in the direction he needed? Fian suggested dealing with the merchant first, getting behind him and finishing it off. Kuma said that it seemed they had no other choice but to finish off the victim they had been stalking for so long, and besides, this merchant Amir was a real celebrity. The team watched from behind Amir. For some reason, those who strike from behind never cover their own rear. Hyun Sung killed those players, but it's a shame he didn't have time to ask what it was like to be killed in secret. The guy killed several users and therefore his karma points increased. He needed to go to the temple to clear his karma. A new skill has been added to the health point shop, and it is possible to reduce karma points by spending health points. Hyun Sung currently has 150 karma points, with every 10 karma points equal to 1 health point. The guy thought it was pretty good. Those thieves stood and defended themselves. 5 game days have already passed. They didn't understand what killed them then. It looked like magic. Fian didn't think that Hyun Sung was involved in this. If he had such powerful spells, he would have definitely used them in the dungeon. Kuma agreed with them. If the guy was a magician, he wouldn't need combat skills. Besides, such powerful spells couldn't be used by someone who hadn't even reached level 80 yet. Fian assumed he had an accomplice. There is no word in the idea community that they are hunting players. The girl suggested that they lay low for now. Kuma wanted to discuss further actions when they got to the shelter, and he still needed to catch that merchant. They didn't think the guy had gone far. No one had ever managed to complete this task in 2 days. Suddenly, someone behind them greeted them. In a second, drops of blood splashed across the floor. All that was left of these players was their stuff. The guy noticed that the equipment was not bad, so it could be sold. That's why you shouldn't joke with Hyun Sung. Hyun Sung used 30 health points to remove karma points and get 3 rare items, the same as buying those 3 items from the store. Of course, he shouldn't kill other players, but it's a lot of fun. Hyun Sung wanted to kill those thieves 3 or 4 more times. The Asura channel was created, and there were no videos on it yet. It was soon time to begin. His videos don't even need to be promoted. They are interesting in themselves. One video was posted on the channel. The alarm clock rang in the morning. Hyun Sung opened the lid of his capsule and stretched. If it weren't for the narcolepsy skill, he would just sleep. Suddenly, Hyuna screamed. Hyun Sung burst into the room and asked what happened. She turned her tablet and showed the video. The guy got angry because she scared him a lot. Looking closer at the tablet, he saw his video. It was that fight where the arrow was cut in 2, and Hyuna thought that was the best part. Hyun Sung thanked her. The girl didn't understand what he was thanking her for. The guy said that she was watching his friend's video, so she was thanking him on his behalf. Hyuna was very surprised. Earlier, Hyun Sung told her about Jae Hwan, who edits videos. So this was it. The guy said that he had already seen it because his friend showed it to him before publication. Hyuna asked if her brother knew Asura from the video. Hyun Sung replied that he was Jae Hwan's friend, so he knew him. The girl asked an unexpected question about contact information, which left the guy stunned. Hyun Sung, with a strained smile, said that, "Of course there is." Hyuna lit up with joy and reminded him that her brother owed her a wish. The girl asked to invite Asura to join their guild. She said that their guild is small but very elite and generally cool. She said that the minimum rank of the guild members is unique, and they also have 2 legendary ranks. They were also the first to receive land on the previous server. Hyun Sung was impressed by the story about land and 2 legendary ranks. Plus, it's an elite guild, so there might be some strong allies there, and from what Hyuna said, they have a pretty cozy atmosphere, so he should consider joining their guild. Hyun Sung replied that he would ask, but he couldn't promise anything. The girl would be grateful if her brother just tried. Hyuna asked if Asura's rank was higher than unique. There was only 1 skill in the video. Hyun Sung replied that as far as he knew, it was legendary rank. Hyun Sung asked not to tell anyone because it was a secret. Hyuna first agreed, and then said that she would only tell the guild leader. The guy replied that they could just tell her that Asura had a rank higher than unique. The girl sighed with displeasure but agreed. Hyun Sung picked up his sister and asked if he could put her in the capsule. Hyuna agreed and thanked him. Suddenly, the guy noticed something. He asked if she seemed heavier to him. Hyuna asked to let her go immediately, and even if she gained a few kilos, so what? Hyun Sung apologized and said he just thought she might have health issues. Hyuna told her brother to never tell a girl that she had gained weight. The guy laughed and asked who she thought he was, and the girl replied that he was a loner. Hyuna laughed and closed the capsule. The little sister said that she would tell the guild leader everything, and he should ask Asura. The guy was glad that she was not offended. Hyun Sung wanted to please her, but decided to postpone the surprise for later. At that moment, Jae Hwan called about the video and asked if the guy had managed to watch it. Hyun Sung replied that if it weren't for Hyuna, a week would have probably passed. Jae Hwan asked if the boy was aware that their video was #1 on the list. Hyun Sung opened the search bar and was very surprised. All the first 3 searches were about Asura. At that very moment, Hyun Sung asked what was going on with their channel. It has already accumulated 30 million views and 1.5 million subscribers. The sun was shining brightly on the green meadow. Blonde hair fluttered in the wind. Ye Yuan fought against a huge bear. The girl jumped on his neck and stabbed him with 2 daggers, after which she jumped down and stepped aside. Ye Yuan used the skill Lightning Charge, and because of it, the enemy was stunned. She inflicted a large number of wounds and cuts. The bear was killed and dropped resources. The girl was still behind Hyun Sung and needed to work harder. Yet Yun wanted to meet the guy again because she had to give him the items. But first, she wanted to return to the village. Ye Yun teleported to the central square of Riha village. 2 guys were discussing Asura's video. Even the administration of Idea noticed it. They placed a promo video with it on the main page, although only 1 day had passed since the upload. The girl didn't understand what they were talking about. Opening the main page of Idea in front of her, she saw Asura's video. Ye Yun couldn't believe it was Hyun Sung. The long sword the player in the video was wielding was very similar to his weapon, and the mask was the same too. The girl was delighted that Hyun Sung's skills had improved significantly. His movements became smoother and more precise. Seeing the comments, she realized he was in Vienna. In the building of the Heroes Guild, Rin sat in the hall and looked at the main page of Idea. The girl knew that the video would be popular, but she didn't expect it to be so popular. Considering that the video was edited for some time, she can't say how far he has already managed to advance in his training. Hyuna ran into the room screaming. She asked the girl if she had seen Asura's new video. There wasn't a single person who hadn't seen it, since it already had 7 million views. Hyuna said that it turns out that her brother is acquainted with Asura, so she asked him to ask him if he wanted to join their guild. Rin stood up and said that it would be a great idea and asked her to ask her brother to send one message. Hyuna's brother should write to Asura that Rin once met him in a dungeon, and if he doesn't want to join their guild, could he just add her as a friend? Rin should return the items dropped by the boss to him. Hyuna was very surprised when she heard that her little sister was hunting monsters with Asura. If Asura finds out that he has friends in the guild, then his chances of joining will increase. Hyuna was going to go and tell her brother everything now, and then come back right away. Hyun Sung returned home and was immediately greeted by his little sister. Hyuna asked if her brother had met Asura, and he replied that he hadn't yet. The girl asked me to convey a message to him that the head of their guild wanted to meet with him. Hyun Seong didn't understand what she meant. The girl said that the guild leader Rin had already met Asura in the game. The guy thought that perhaps his sister had been lied to in order to get a meeting with him. Rin said that she knows Asura from the Wolf's Cave and wants to give him the items that dropped from the boss. For some reason, he couldn't collect them. Hyun Sung thought that she most likely meant Rin. Hyuna asked if she could meet him too. It would be really great if her brother arranged for them all to meet Asura and the 4 of them could chat. If you think about it, Rin can easily guess that he is Asura. Even if he comes to the meeting wearing a mask, she knows his nickname, and if Rin calls him Hyun Sung, Hyuna will also understand everything. The guy replied that he would ask him, but he might refuse. So don't get your hopes up too much because Asura is a very shy person. Hyun Sung promised that he would try to persuade him. A rainbow shone over the Karen Empire. The man approached the emperor and said that, as he had ordered, they had begun preparations for the tournament. The exact timing was still unclear, but it would take at least a month to prepare. Monarch Sharon was surprised that it would take so long. The man replied that the preparations would take exactly that long. And considering that it would take time to review applications for participation and conduct trial battles, it would take at least 40 days. The emperor asked if the competition would be as he wanted it to be. The assistant replied that separating the townspeople and travelers was a very wise decision, so it would be so. The monarch ordered that the participants be divided into 4 categories depending on their strength. It was the 8th day of the competition of the imperial fighters, and some kind of horror began to happen in the east of Venice. A whole bunch of all kinds of monsters were advancing on ordinary citizens. The monsters bit and tortured people. Players were dying one after another. The monsters did not stop walking. They carried out the master's order. Their orders were to kill the descendant of Thanatos. Hyun Sung's reputation had finally reached 100, and if he hunted monsters more often, it would have been even higher. The guy thought Apostle Thanatos was crazy, because he could easily force him to answer questions again. There may be valuable information in the books about Thanatos, and it would not be a bad idea to study the topic. There must definitely be something about this god in the pantheon. As Hyun Sung approached the entrance, he noticed the guard. It seems like they carefully check everyone and decide whether they can let them in. But why was it different with Hyun Sung? Something was definitely wrong here. The priests and believers were behaving suspiciously. The guy approached them and wanted to ask something, but it seemed like they were afraid of him. Everyone ran away from him in all directions. There were a few players standing nearby, looking at Hyun-sung suspiciously, wondering why he wasn't being checked. One guy suggested that he was probably the high priest. If that were the case, the paladins would have treated him with respect, but their reaction was the opposite. Hyun-sung looked at them and the players quickly turned away. The boys were discussing how even NPCs were afraid of him, and it was unlikely that communicating with him would lead to anything good. Hyun-seong heard their conversations and began to get angry. Now even the players avoided him. The guy assumed that they knew that he was a descendant of Thanatos and felt the energy emanating from him. Since Thanatos is the god of death and sleep, ordinary priests avoid him. Hyun-seong no longer hoped to meet anyone of high rank in this temple. In front of him stood a man with a long beard and two of his wards. He had the highest rank. Hyun-sung was scared and thought that he would be kicked out now. But surprisingly, the man bowed before him and asked for forgiveness that he could not accompany such an important guest. He asked to forgive all these children of God who are so young and stupid. Hyun-sung suggested that they go somewhere else first since there were too many eyes here. All the players did not understand who this guy was, because the bishop himself was with him. They went into the chambers of the bishop of the Pantheon. The bishop asked the boy to sit down, but he felt ashamed because his grandfather was standing in front of him, and he was sitting. The man introduced himself, and it turned out that he was not a bishop, but simply responsible for this temple. His name was Balian. Hyun-sung told him to calm down and not to worry. The guy wanted to leave as soon as possible, because that's not why he came here. Suddenly, there was an explosion behind Balian. Hyun-sung thought there was an attack. A man dressed in a priest's uniform entered the room. This guy cried with happiness. He fell to his knees, bowing before Hyun-sung with such force that the floor cracked. Because of this, the guy broke his forehead. He introduced himself as Libius, priest of Thanatos, and his humble servant. Now it became clear why all the priests had such a reaction. Hyun-sung didn't care about the information. He wanted to get out of here. Libius wept and praised Thanatos. He assured the gentleman that there was nothing useful here, and that he would only waste his time, and asked him to leave here. Hyun-seong didn't know if he could follow him. Judging by the fact that his name was highlighted in green, he was somehow related to his quest. Libius said that if you approach the altar of Thanatos, you can get a new skill. The guy said to move out right now. They came to the altar of Thanatos, a temple built in his honor. Compared to the temples of other gods, this building is simply enormous, but there was not a single priest here. Hyun-sung turned around and wanted to ask something, but he was horrified. Libius, looking distraught, shouted that it was a great honor for his servant and asked how Hyun-seong could speak to him so formally. He asked to address him as you. Only then he would be able to rise from his knees. Hyun-sung replied that he understood him. The guy said that he had recently learned that he was a descendant of Thanatos and asked to tell him everything he knew about him. Since the story would be long, Libius asked to sit down, and a table and chair appeared in front of them. The man poured a cup of tea. There was a pause for a minute. Libius became worried, thinking that something was wrong. Hyun-sung suggested returning to the topic and telling him everything the man knew. Lord Thanatos is the most powerful among the gods. This tense atmosphere did not pass even after 10 minutes. There was a pause in the air again. Libius again began to worry that he had something on his face. This only made Hyun-sung angry, and he again asked to tell him about God. The man replied that he had already told everything. The guy didn't understand what was wrong with this Libius. Hyun-sung stood up and started to leave, as he had wasted his time. Suddenly, he noticed something and turned around. Libius took a bag with some things. Hyun-seong asked what he was doing, and he replied that he would accompany him to show his loyalty. It is natural that loyal subjects wish to serve their master. Besides, there is some order that the apostle gave him. The apostle said that the day would come when the dark energy would rise in the east, and then a master would appear who needed to be taken care of. Hyun-sung realized that this guy knew he was coming, so it means he was needed to find the next clue. Hyun-sung asked when the apostle had told him this, and if he had spoken of anything other than the dark energy. The apostle said that the successor would come as soon as he sensed this energy, and that if he arrived early, he should make Hyun-sung return to him later. Even though it was a long time ago, the guy remembered everything as if it had happened a couple of minutes ago. Hyun-sung was sure that this guy would be useful to him for the next quest, and he would probably have to hang around with him until he reached level 100 and unlock the quest. Suddenly, the thought occurred to him that he could leave this psycho here and come back for him when he got this level. The apostle also said that if Libeus did not follow him, he would be cursed and would never be able to leave this temple. And then he added that monsters would come here, but Libeus wasn't sure if that was true. It was unlikely to be anything important because Hyun Seong was developing quickly, and this place would soon be attacked by monsters using the power of dragons. Libis wasn't sure if he understood his words correctly, but those monsters sensed Hyun Seong's energy and would pursue him under the control of the dark dragons. Hyun Seong thought it was some kind of nonsense and opened the main menu. There was a post on the bulletin board that monsters were heading to Vienna. An urgent quest appeared, the essence of which was to protect the city. The guy became interested in this siege. Due to the large difference in levels, Libeus was unable to participate in the battle. Libeus was level 560. Hyun Seong couldn't understand how this was even possible. In the official rankings, the number one player was level 360. Hyun Seong realized that he could use his buffs until he reached level 100. Now it was time to head straight for the monsters to strike first. The boys were very happy about the new adventures. The girl was sitting at the computer and was very tired. Finally, Min Yura finished. She didn't think that a wave of monsters would start an attack because of the dragons and she would be busy with the Imperial Tournament. Min Yura blamed the descendant of Tananos for everything. Even using the AI idea to predict Hyun Seong's actions, she still can't figure out how this person will act. None of the players have finished the first chapter yet. Can this guy handle it? But she put her thoughts aside. Even the player named Soa, who was just above level 400, hadn't reached this point yet. However, the speed of his pumping was impressive. The ability Thananos' Sleepwalk gives Hyun Seong a huge advantage, and the hidden NPC Libeus has also appeared. His level is currently 85, and after participating in the siege, he will become about 100. But suddenly, Min Yura thought about what was happening on the 100th level. Usually, one of two new skills is unlocked there. One of them is passive, and the other is so strong that it can be called absolute. But the descendant of Thananos gets both skills at once. If they are used, most players will not be able to defeat Hyun Seong as a whole, just like now. But even a player like him will not be able to gain experience from the siege. He cannot level up to 100 right away. The guy will raise 10 levels at most. Seeing Hyun Seong happy, she realized that he was even crazier than she thought. Min Yura asked the AI how much experience points and rewards the user Hyun Seong would receive if he defeated all the monsters and dragons. He replied that if the user she specified killed all the monsters, he would reach level 101. If he defeated the boss during the siege alone, he would receive a unique skill and 5 items as a reward for completing the quest. Also, monsters enhanced by Aquilior's power will drop improved items. Min Yura remembered that she needed to prepare for the tournament. She disabled all videos related to user Hyun Seong and opened up the tournament information. Suddenly, the girl noticed something and screamed in anger. The workers noticed that Min Yura was acting up again, and it looked like Cho Min was going to get in trouble again. The girl banged her head on the keyboard, asking why they had chosen this path. She'll have to stay late today. In the vicinity of Venice, as Ye-eun thought, Hyun Seong was not here. The girl wanted to look in other places, yet Ye-eun teleported to the city center and saw that some kind of commotion was starting around. She received an urgent quest to protect Vania. Yet Ye-eun thought that Hyun Seong would be going through it too. He said that he liked fighting, so he would definitely be there. The girl couldn't understand why everyone was calling it a siege. The quest didn't say a word about it. She assumed that Hyun Seong might have decided to take a break from hunting and rest for a bit. But she immediately realized that the guy couldn't miss something like this. If he is in Vienna now, then he most likely went to beat the monsters before everyone else. Hyun Seong and Libeus were standing on a cliff outside the city. The monsters would soon reach the city. Libeus, looking at the gentleman, admired him. These mobs sense the energy of the descendant of Thananos. They will notice him soon. The guy asked Libeus if they could move Thananos' energy somewhere else, and he agreed. At first, Libeus looked at the master. Then tears and joy appeared on his face. The boy said that he felt like his knowledge had increased thanks to Hyun Seong. Now it was time to put their plan into action, and the boys jumped off the cliff in different directions. A large number of all kinds of mobs were advancing. Suddenly, the wolf noticed something. In their crowd, there was a boss, a giant orc. He noticed that the energy went in 2 directions. Soon, it began to multiply and spread throughout the forest. The monsters couldn't figure out where to go because the energy was both here and there. Suddenly, she all disappeared. The monsters realized that the energy was somewhere nearby and decided to split up and find it. The wolves howled, trying to attract attention. Yunxiang watched as the animals made terrible sounds and realized that thanks to the power of the dragons, they had become much more powerful. Nothing would have worked out if it weren't for Libius. The guy thought that energy could only be replaced, but it turned out that it could also be hidden. It seems that each boss has 1,000 more simple monsters under his command, which means that there are 4 bosses here, and so there are at least 4 or even 5,000 monsters. If they do not go straight to Vanilla, they will be difficult to deal with. If Hyunseong can use Libius's buffs, he can manage to reduce their numbers. The previous quest disappeared because of him, so he can't finish this one alone. There will be no point in being greedy. It will be enough to clear a couple of dungeons. Besides, now he has Libius. The guy wanted to take all the elite and ordinary bosses. He should be number 1 in this business. But more importantly now is why there are no new quests. Hyun-sung thought there would be another special quest related to dragons. What a pity there isn't one, because the rewards would be amazing. The guy stood up and suggested starting with the boss, a giant wolf. Hyun-sung started filming videos. A whole pack of wolves jumped off the cliff and ran forward. The leader of the wolf pack had a mark in the form of a moon on his head. He could smell Hyun-sung. He wouldn't be able to escape. The leader could not believe that the descendant of Thanatos was mocking them. He was ready to find him. He smelled the scent with his nose. Suddenly, Hyun-sung's jacket flew over him, catching their attention. But suddenly, the guy snuck up from below and activated volley. Several bullets flew towards the leader. They hit the wolves standing nearby. Hyun-sung's magic power has increased, and the magic bullet is now much more dangerous, even though he was only using 50% of his power. The bullets continued to hit the remaining wolves, causing them to writhe in pain. The wolf pack leader used the skill Howl, causing nearby wolf-type monsters to become 20% stronger. Libius jumped in the bushes and admired. The priest of Thanatos, Libius, gave Hyun-seong the priest's life force, and all of the boy's stats will be increased by 50% for 1 hour. Libius also gave him the priest's hand, and his attack power increased by 50% for 2 hours. The leader of the wolf pack became very angry. He rushed to attack in an attempt to tear the guy to pieces. Hyun-sung dodged and wanted to run up from the other side. Behind the leader, the boy attacked several wolves. It was not just a battle, but a whole hunt. A huge mouth appeared behind Hyun-sung. The guy wanted to kill them as painlessly as possible. He can't use the magic bullet skill against them, so he'll have to deal with them with his sword. Hyun-sung placed a sharp sword at the wolf's neck. At that very second, the guy jumped to the side. He decided to use the Thanatos melody. The wolf leader emanated dark energy. His eye opened wide. The chief realized that Hyun-sung was a hunter. The leader of the wolf pack was defeated, and Hyun-sung received his soul. Additional quest rewards were received and better items dropped from the boss. If he killed other bosses, he would get only the best items. His level would increase by 3. This was the taste of a real hunt. Hyun-sung used the soul game. When activated, the skill allows the boss's soul to be summoned into this world, and it will obey the caster's orders. A small core penetrated the body of the wolf leader. The wolf pack leader was summoned by the soul game effect, and the body was resurrected. The stats increased by 50%, and the wolf pack leader waited for the order. Libius was delighted that his master now had another servant. After all, a real hunting dog was needed for hunting. Hyun-sung asked what Libius had in his hands, and Libius replied that the wolf had torn his clothes, and he tried to create something that would please him. Black Sharani is a large snake. She was visible among the trees. In terms of strength, ogres and orcs are much stronger, but the Sharani's poison is a real problem. Libius felt sorry that he was not a humble servant and could not be of use to him. The recovery time of Libius's healing skill and other positive effects increased significantly. It is best to engage in combat when his skills are fully restored. The boys ran at full speed, riding on the wolf. Suddenly the snake felt and heard their presence. The wolf bit the snake's body with his sharp teeth, and it hissed. Sharani opened her mouth wide. She bit the wolf back. Suddenly the snake saw something and its eyes widened. Hyun-sung ran across her body with a sword in his hands. At that moment, Sharani released the wolf and hissed. She opened her mouth and turned around to catch the guy. But the wolf squeezed her neck and Hyun-sung jumped aside. The guy quickly swung his sword, dealing a large number of blows. Sharani's whole body was covered in wounds and cuts. Hyun-sung defeated Black Sharani and obtained the boss's soul. Unfortunately, the snake's body will disappear during the reload period. Then the guys went to the ogres. The most important was the ogre champion Acub. The wolf rushed at great speed. Libius's skills were truly amazing. He was able to completely restore the disappearing wolf. the leader of the giant orcs, Firak, towered over the trees. He saw Hyun Seong and considered the wolf a traitor. They wanted revenge. Apparently, these two will work together. But whatever the case, it doesn't change the situation. Hyun Sung wanted to use the skill sleepwalking, but with Libius buffs, it would be a piece of cake, and it would be a waste of time to recharge the skill. This would just waste about 2 days. Hyun Sung initially wanted to deal with the orc chieftain and send the wolf to fight the ogre champion. The ogre champion has high defense and is also higher level than the wolf, so his attacks may not work. In this case, it is worth sending the wolf to the orc chieftain with relatively weak defense. Several bullets hit the ogre champion. The guy stood in front of him and wanted to sort things out personally. The ogre champion held nunchaku in his hands and shouted. Even after using magic bullets, the stacks did not accumulate. Most likely, he has resistance to his throwing fire. At this moment, Hyun Sung took off all his armor and used Mirage. His huge mace fell to the ground. The ogre champion didn't understand what was happening. At that moment, Hyun Sung flew close and delivered a strong blow to the neck. The bullets created several more holes there. The guy slipped to the side. The orc managed to notice him out of the corner of his eye. The monster slammed its hand into the ground. Thanks to the Mirage and Death Belt, Hyun Sung easily dodged its attacks. He himself would hardly be able to strike back properly. There were about 8 days left until the DP store update. The ogre champion used the skill Speed, and the reaction power increased by 30%. Magic resistance was deactivated due to the use of the skill. Apparently, he decided to dig his own grave. At this point, Hyun Sung decided to use the Shark Tsunami. The ogre champion clearly didn't expect this. The guy sent water sharks straight at him. The monster tried to wave his hands, splashing them. Suddenly, one managed to get to him and bit him on the leg. He grabbed 2 sharks with his hands from above. Then he stamped his foot and crushed one from below. Another one swam up to him and bit his hand. With his other hand, he hit her. While the monster was waving its arms, Hyun Sung came up from behind and attacked it straight in the eye. The guy landed a critical hit, hitting a vulnerable spot, and Orgakab loses sight in his left eye for 10 seconds. Enro would be tormented by hallucinations and pain. For the next 5 seconds, the boy jumped forward to dodge. The monster took a flail in his hands and wanted to strike back. The dream belt activated, and the guy somehow dodged it, moving backwards. It was a counterattack during the hallucination. Hyun Sung didn't know that it was possible to move under the influence of a nightmare. The ogre took a small knife out of his eye. Many monsters appeared around Hyun Sung, and it seemed like things were getting worse. Suddenly, the guy heard someone growling. The leader of the giant orcs, Firak, killed the leader of the wolf pack. Now things have gotten even worse. First, it was necessary to reduce the livestock population. Hyun Sung used the Reaper's chains, and they reached everyone nearby. It took a lot of mana, but there were a lot fewer monsters around. Next, the guy used the Thanatos melody. Small cannonballs appeared over the heads of the opponents. The nightmare core began to emit electricity. Everyone was under his influence. A small number of more monsters died. Firak wanted to kill this little man. He delivered a huge blow, but the guy managed to dodge. The dream belt canceled out all of the opponent's attacks. Next, Hyun Sung used Shark Tsunami. They all bit into the boss's skin. The sharks were very cunning. Firak waved his arms, trying to fight them off. Suddenly, something went wrong. The ogre champion almost hit the guy with his flail. Now Hyun Sung is left with only the most ineffective attacks. It looked like Firak wasn't even injured yet. And Akab, although he looked battered, wasn't so battered that he would be left out. Right now, the guy can only use 2 skills, Shooting Throwing and Tsunami of Sharks, because their recharge is disabled due to Tongue of Dragons. And all other abilities are on recharge. This is not enough for a normal attack. Hyun Sung thought that 2 skills would be more than enough, but he was wrong. Of course, if he fights, he will win in the end. But he needs to seal a crushing victory. At this moment, Hyun Sung used Thanatos' Dream. The guy was annoyed by everyone. He wanted to deal with each of them. Once activated, all enemy defenses are nullified for 10 in-game days. Hyun Sung has only 60 seconds to kill these 2. He used Berserker's Song, along with the previous skill. The caster becomes invulnerable for 10 seconds, and the movement speed and attack power increase by 50%. Thanatos' Dream reduces all risk to a minimum. But this minute is enough for Hyun Sung. The guy used the chains again and killed the enemies around him. Firak and Akab were furious. Sharks were then used again. Hyun Sung went with them to fight face to face. Having inflicted a large number of wounds, the boy landed between the orc's legs. The Thanatos melody was used. The sharks dealt a powerful critical blow. Then the bullets started flying. Due to carelessness, they hit both eyes at once. While Firak was writhing in pain, Akab snuck up at that moment. He struck the ground with a powerful blow with his flail, but the boy dodged it. He managed to sneak up from behind. While Akab was distracted, he was attacked by sharks. Suddenly, Hyun-sung climbed onto his neck and stabbed him with two swords. The ogre champion's head flew off, and he was finally defeated. Hyun-sung received the boss's soul. A few seconds later, Champion Acab was summoned by the skill Soul Game. His body was in poor condition, and it was impossible to increase his abilities. After resurrection, all abilities increased by 30%. Now Akab played against Firek. Hyun-sung thought this effect was great. The orc wanted both of them dead. Firak wanted revenge for what he did to them. The giant orc chieftain used the spirit shackle skill, and now the player cannot move. The dream belt was also unavailable. A moment later, there was a big explosion. A hole remained at the site of the impact. Libius walked up to the spot and shook his hands. He looked and was very surprised. Now Firak wanted to deal with him. The orc chieftain was hit in the stomach. Considering that Acab was under control, it means that Hyun-sung is still alive. The guy used the Berserker song, and red lights came out of his eyes. Now it was Hyun-sung's turn. The orc said that such a thing was simply impossible. And what was this anyway? Libius replied that it was the result of him going against God. At this moment, Firak and Hyun-sung came face to face with each other. The leader of the giant orcs was defeated. The guy received the boss's soul. Since Hyun-sung defeated the boss enhanced by Aquilior's power, an additional reward was received. Seeing all this, the guy was very surprised, but he did not get what he expected. He thought that he would get extra points if he delivered the final blow with the help of the Thanatos melody. Perhaps he simply didn't get there in time, but it didn't matter. Now he needed to collect the items as quickly as possible and leave. Thanatos' lucid dream has been deactivated, nullifying all enemy defenses for 10 in-game days. If the monsters attacked him in a crowd, Hyun-sung would lose at least half of his health. But the monsters continued to come. They gave the guy a headache. Seeing this amount of mobs, Hyun-sung decided to run away. Suddenly, lightning appeared all around, and the monsters began to roar in pain. The guy already thought that he had missed some boss. All of his skills are on cooldown, and only Dragon Tongue and Throwing Shooting are available right now. But considering that all the monsters are left without protection, it would be foolish to miss such a chance. Libius came up from behind and asked him to listen. He said that things are very bad now. Suddenly, someone came up and called out to Hyun-sung. It was Ye-yoon, and there were small lightning bolts floating around her legs. The guy was very surprised and asked what she was doing there anyway.